Chapter 2059. The embodiment's birth was extremely coincidental, and his strength was also extremely lucky. If the second stone mongoose hadn't been born without intelligence, Yang Kai wouldn't have thought of pouring his soul clone into it and turning it into his embodiment. If it hadn't been for the opportunity on the floating continent, the embodiment wouldn't have grown so quickly. It was because he had refined the entire floating continent that he was able to grow to such a terrifying level in such a short time. The embodiment's punch was equivalent to the power of an entire continent, the power of an entire world. Even though Yang Kai's body was powerful and his cultivation was high, how could he withstand the bombardment of an entire continent with just his body of flesh and blood? It wasn't surprising that he was sent flying and even injured. "You should find me a staff like Xiao Xiao's." The embodiment grinned. If he had a divine artifact like the heaven-shaking pillar in hand, the embodiment would be able to defeat 10 people with brute strength even if he didn't use any other power. Moreover, he could do it even better than Xiao Xiao. There will be a chance. After Yang Kai nodded, his figure suddenly blurred, and with a sway, he appeared above the embodiment, turned around, and swept down with his leg. The violent source chi on his leg showed that Yang Kai wasn't going to show any mercy. Seeing this, the embodiment didn't panic. He just raised one hand to block above his head, while the other hand passed under his armpit and stretched out to grab Yang Kai. Yang Kai's eyes narrowed, and he shouted, "Condense." As soon as his voice trailed off, a buzzing sound rang out, and the surrounding space suddenly congealed under the influence of the power of laws. The embodiment's movements slowed down slightly. Its huge body was actually greatly hindered. The big hand reaching for Yang Kai was no longer as fast as before. He lowered his body and growled, "Break." Within the giant's body, a violent energy burst out in an instant. Catcher. A crisp sound rang out, and the solidified space suddenly loosened. With the brute force of his body, he forcibly broke through the suppression of the space law that Yang Kai had mobilized and continued to reach for Yang Kai. Yang Kai didn't dare to move forward. He exerted force on his feet. An explosive sound came from the soles of his feet, and his body floated backward like an arrow leaving the bow. Immediately, his hands opened and closed, and a huge moon blade leisurely formed. Without any scruples, he directly released it. The huge moon blade was as black as ink. Like a machete, it slashed toward the embodiment's arm. The avatar's eyes narrowed. He changed his grip into a fist and punched out like a ferocious tiger. A violent fist force shot out from his fist, and before the crescent blade slashed down, it collided with it in mid-air, accompanied by a rumbling sound. The crescent blade disappeared. The fist energy disappeared without a trace. Before Yang Kai could recover from his shock, the embodiment stomped his feet, and an earth pillar shot out from the ground. The embodiment stretched out his hand and grabbed it. The surface of the scattered earth pillar flashed with a trace of light, and in an instant, it became as hard as iron, turning into an earth stick. The embodiment grabbed and flung the 100-meter-long stick towards Yang Kai. A sharp explosion sounded as if it was going to pierce through space. Yang Kai's face changed. How could he dare to stay in place? Space power lingered around his body, and he directly flashed to the side, causing the earth stick to hit empty air. Heh. The embodiment seemed to have expected this. Seeing this situation, he didn't panic. With a strange laugh, he bent down and placed his 2 giant hands on the ground. In the next moment, the ground trembled. Below Yang Kai, a number of earth dragons suddenly burst out. These earth dragons were vivid and lifelike, baring their fangs and brandishing their claws as they attacked Yang Kai. At a rough count, there were more than a dozen of them, blocking all his escape routes. "Dragon transformation!" Yang Kai shouted in a low voice, urging the golden divine dragon source strength in his body. His right arm suddenly swelled up, covered in a layer of energy transformed into dragon scales, and his right hand turned into the shape of a dragon claw. Then, with a twist of his body, he rushed into the group of earth dragons. Soon, there were screams and explosions as the earth dragons disintegrated and collapsed. Amidst the dust, Yang Kai's figure shot out like a god descending from heaven. On the surface of his body, a 5-colored light bloomed, and 5-element sword chi madly shot towards the embodiment. Seeing this, The embodiment just curled his lips and stomped his foot, immediately summoning an earth wall in front of him. Like the previous earth stick, this earth wall flashed and became extremely sturdy. Asterisk kai 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 kai. Asterisk the sword chi bombarded the earth wall, but it was unable to break through this layer of defense and was blocked by the earth wall. When the sword chi was exhausted, the embodiment waved his hand, and the earth wall in front of him collapsed. But before he could do anything, Yang Kai suddenly showed a strange smile, and then a golden light bloomed from his left eye. Not good. The embodiment let out a strange cry and hurriedly tried to avert his gaze. However, it was already too late. When he saw that trace of golden light, his attention was firmly attracted to it. He couldn't think of anything else at all. His eyes became sluggish. After a while, the golden light dissipated, and the embodiment came back to his senses. Yang Kai stood in front of him with a depressed face, and after looking at each other for a moment, they couldn't help laughing. After a long time, the laughter gradually subsided. "Don't spread what happened today," Yang Kai solemnly exhorted. The embodiment nodded solemnly, with a look of agreement on his face. Fighting with himself, using all his means and abilities, and finally being forced to use the demon eye of annihilation to gain a slight upper hand, if this matter were to spread, he was afraid that people would laugh their heads off. But in this way, Yang Kai could somewhat determine the embodiment's ability. With his current means, apart from divine sense suppression, there was no good way to deal with him. It was natural that the embodiment's divine sense was inferior to his own. After all, he was just a wisp of his divine sense, so how could he compare to his main god? Suppressing him with his divine sense was tantamount to cheating. It was better to order him to lie there and let him beat him up. Yang Kai felt ashamed when he thought about it. "Do you have any extra artifacts?" the embodiment suddenly asked. "Yes." Yang Kai nodded and looked at him suspiciously, but with just a thought, he understood what the embodiment wanted the artifacts for. He immediately said in surprise, "The heaven-devouring Great Empress technique can even devour artifacts." The embodiment said, "I'm just guessing, whether it is true or not remains to be tested." Hearing this, Yang Kai nodded, fumbled around in his space ring, found a few artifacts, and threw them to the embodiment. These artifacts belonged to Shintu's group, and earlier, the spoils of war had been taken by Yang Kai to Maplewood City's black market to exchange for source crystals. After receiving the artifacts, the embodiment immediately sat down, held the artifacts in the palm of his hand, and said in a muffled voice, "The seeds I planted seem to have sprouted." Yang Kai was taken aback, but soon understood what the embodiment was referring to. He immediately looked happy and disappeared in a flash. When he reappeared, he was already near the medicine garden. Only two things survived in the entire medicine garden. One was the immortal tree that Yang Kai obtained in the territory of Homeworld Star, and the other was naturally the gold and silver wood seed that Yang Kai planted in the corner that day. Yang Kai had tried to refine the immortal tree, but he couldn't succeed at all. In the end, he could only transplant it to the medicine garden in the small sealed world. However, because of the existence of the immortal tree, there was a lot of vitality in the small sealed world. Yang Kai had asked Young Inflammation how to refine the immortal tree and achieve an immortal and indestructible body. Young Inflammation didn't say anything, so he was helpless. The wood seed came from the slain wood spirit. Because this seed was very strange, even Liu Yang couldn't burn it, so Yang Kai kept it. Now, in less than a year, this wood seed had taken root and sprouted in the medicine garden, growing into a seedling about 3 inches tall. The seedling was the same as the seed, half gold and half silver. It looked very strange, and it didn't resemble the original body of the wood spirit at all. Yang Kai didn't know why. Kai Yang stared blankly at the 3-inch tall seedling, a blank expression on his face. He didn't recognize such a thing. He had never even heard of it before. However, he could feel that there was a very peculiar power contained within the sapling. This power was still very small, but if the seedling continued to grow, it would definitely become stronger. This 3-inch seedling shouldn't be underestimated. This was the result of planting it in the medicine garden of the Sealed World Bead for about a year. The medicine garden in the Sealed World Bead had heavy earth, 5 earth vein beads, and the vitality brought by the immortal tree. Planting it here for a day was almost equivalent to 100 days in the outside world. In other words, if it was planted elsewhere, even if this wood seed could survive, it would take at least 100 years to grow to 3 inches tall. Thinking so, Yang Kai became even more interested in this gold and silver seedling. The more difficult it was to grow, the higher its value. After all, the immortal tree had survived for countless years, and the flowing time great emperor was only 3 feet tall. After confirming that the wood seed had survived, Yang Kai didn't pay any more attention to it. As for what it could be used for, he would need to observe and inquire more in the future. Later, Yang Kai stayed in the sealed world bead to refine the longsword artifact used by Han Leng and the Flying Saint Palace ship. The longsword artifact was a Dao Source grade low-rank artifact, which he could use now to increase his strength. With the help of his 5 elements indestructible sword chi, it could be used as a killing move. As for the ship, it would naturally be used as a means of transportation. Time flew by, and soon, more than a month had passed. Yang Kai came out of the sealed world bead again and checked on Liu Yang's situation, only to find that she was still sleeping underground, and he didn't know when she would wake up. Yang Kai frowned, but after thinking for a while, he summoned the ship and flew off in the direction of Maplewood City. Yang Kai couldn't be sure when Liu Yang would come out of seclusion, so there was no need to waste time waiting. In any case, Liu Yang knew that he was in Maplewood City, so after she came out of seclusion, she would rush to Maplewood City to meet him. What Yang Kai needed to do now was to rush back to his secluded home in Maplewood City and prepare to refine the Dragon Bone Sword. Chapter 2060. A few days later, Yang Kai returned to Maplewood City. After entering the city gate, Yang Kai didn't even have time to report to Kang Sai Ran that he was safe and sound before he hurried back to his rented cave mansion. Taking out the token, Yang Kai poured his source chi into it and shook it at the cave mansion's barrier. But what surprised him was that the cave mansion's barrier didn't react at all, as if his token had no effect. This caused him to frown, but soon, he remembered something. When he came to Maplewood City, the time limit for renting the cave mansion seemed to be 1 year, and counting the days, this time limit should have passed as early as 2 months ago. Once the time limit was over, the right to use the cave mansion would definitely be taken back. Yang Kai's heart suddenly thumped as he realized that something was wrong. It didn't matter if the cave mansion's time limit was over. At worst, he could go to the city lord's mansion to register and rent a new one. It was just a matter of some source crystals. He didn't store anything too valuable in the cave mansion, so he didn't need to worry too much. But, before he left, the little girl of the Zhong family was still in the cave mansion. At that time, he went to Yuan Furnace Mountain with Kang Sai Ran to explore Gong Sun Mu's cave mansion, but he didn't expect to be delayed for so long. He thought that it wouldn't take long for him to return. Before leaving, he didn't even tell Zhong Ruoshi in detail, only telling her that he was going out for a while before leaving her here alone. Now that the cave mansion's time limit was up and the right to use it was taken back, what about Zhong Ruoshi? Yang Kai looked around, but didn't see that delicate figure. He couldn't help but feel a little anxious. Just as he was about to leave, Zhong Ruoshi was only a first-order Saint King. In this chaotic Maplewood City, she didn't have the ability to protect herself. If she was targeted by someone with bad intentions, the consequences would be unimaginable. Could she have gone back to the Zhong family by herself? Yang Kai muttered to himself. If he was in Zhong Ruoshi's position, after the right to use the cave mansion was taken back and he was kicked out of the cave mansion, he would definitely go back to the Zhong family first. If that was the case, there was nothing to worry about. After all, although the Zhong family was not strong, it still had 2 origin kings. Just as Yang Kai was at a loss, a burst of restriction fluctuations suddenly came from beside him. Yang Kai was stunned. He turned his head and saw that the door of the cave was open. A young woman's pretty face peeked out from inside. That young woman looked to be about 30 years old. A pair of beautiful eyes sized up Yang Kai with extreme vigilance, and suspiciously asked, "Who are you?" Yang Kai hurriedly cupped his fists and said, "I am Yang Kai, the original owner of this cave." The young woman frowned and said, "I've already rented this cave abode. When I came in, there was nothing left inside." "I know. I'm not here to look for anything. Yang Kai smiled lightly. Try to be nice. You're not looking for anything. The young woman was even more confused. Then what are you doing? I'm looking for someone, a young girl. Yang Kai hurriedly said, she should have lived here, but now she's gone. I don't know if madam has seen her. Hearing that Yang Kai was looking for someone, the young woman frowned and her expression changed slightly. She quickly shook her head and said, I haven't seen her. While speaking, she retracted her head and closed the door at the same time. Wait. Seeing this, Yang Kai immediately understood that she must know something. How could he allow her to retreat like this? He stretched out his hand and blocked the door. The young woman's expression changed abruptly and she snapped, What are you doing? This is Maplewood City. Yang Kai coldly snorted and directly entered the cave mansion. He closed the door and stared coldly at the young woman. At the same time, a powerful aura erupted from his body and directly suppressed the young woman. Dao Source Realm. Perceiving the horror of this aura, the young woman's expression suddenly changed and she cried out involuntarily. Her beautiful eyes finally changed as she looked at Yang Kai. In Maplewood City, the strength of a cultivator was generally not high. There were not many Dao Source Realm masters, but each one of them had a great background and was definitely not someone an ordinary cultivator could provoke. So when she sensed Yang Kai's cultivation, the young woman panicked a little. She was only a first-order origin king. How could she resist the pressure of a Dao Source Realm master? Although she struggled to hold on, her body went soft and she reached out to hold on to the wall next to her to prevent herself from being crushed. She bit her red lips and looked at Yang Kai pleadingly. Little brother, you and I have no grievances in the past. I have never offended you, so please don't make things too difficult for me. I won't make things difficult for you. Yang Kai's face was cold as he said indifferently, I will only ask a few questions. Answer me honestly. If you dare to lie, I will make you beg for death. You should know that I have the ability to do so. Hearing this, the young woman gritted her teeth and nodded gently. Very good. Let me ask you, have you seen that little girl? Yang Kai stared at the young woman, not letting go of the slightest change in her expression. The young woman pondered for a moment before nodding with difficulty. I don't know if that little girl is the one you are looking for, but I did see her at the entrance of the secluded home. Tell me, how old is she, what is her cultivation, and what are her characteristics? Yang Kai asked anxiously. 16 or 17 years old. As for her cultivation, she is at the peak of the second-order Saint King realm and is about to break through to the third-order Saint King realm. She looks a little weak, has a slender figure, speaks in a soft voice, and has straight black hair. That's her. Yang Kai's eyes lit up. He was sure that the person the young woman saw was Zhong Ruoshi, but he didn't expect that in less than a year, Zhong Ruoshi's cultivation could advance from the first-order Saint King realm to the peak of the second-order Saint King realm and was about to break through to the third-order Saint King realm. It seemed that this little girl's aptitude wasn't bad. Of course, the marrow washing pill must have played a part in this. You said you saw her at the entrance of the secluded home? What was she doing at the entrance? Yang Kai asked with a frown. The young woman said, she was standing at the entrance. Standing? Yang Kai was stunned. Yes, she was standing there. I rented this place 2 months ago. At that time, she was already at the entrance of the secluded home, but I didn't notice her. Later, I found that she was standing there without moving. Out of curiosity, I asked her and she told me that she was waiting for a Sir Yang. Little brother, are you that Sir Yang? The young woman asked while timidly raising her head to look at Yang Kai, only to find that Yang Kai was stunned. Yang Kai's emotions were fluctuating at this moment. He couldn't help but imagine a scene in his mind. In the bustling Maplewood City, at the entrance of the secluded home, a 16 or 17-year-old girl stood there quietly. No matter how the wind blew or the sun shone, she still didn't move. She would look around from time to time, but she still couldn't find that familiar figure. In the bustling city, she was like an abandoned person, lonely, hesitant, and helpless. As night fell and the cold wind blew, she could only curl up and shiver in place. At dawn, she opened her eyes and continued to wait. Yang Kai's heart was inexplicably heavy. I felt sorry for her and invited her to come in, but she didn't agree. She told me that she was going to stand there and wait. Sir Yang, little brother, I really didn't do anything to her. Please don't make things difficult for me. The young woman looked at Yang Kai in fear, afraid that Yang Kai would vent his anger on her. Since you didn't do anything to her, why didn't you tell me the truth from the beginning? Instead, when I asked about her whereabouts, you immediately closed the secluded home. You obviously have a guilty conscience. Yang Kai coldly looked at the young woman, a thick murderous intent flashing in the depths of his eyes. The young woman seemed to be aware of it and quickly waved her hand. No, it's not what you think. I really didn't hurt her. Tell me, where is she now? Looking at your expression, you seem to know something. Yang Kai coldly said. The young woman shook her head. Yang Kai chuckled. It seems that you have some misgivings. Little brother, don't force me. Please let me go. As long as you don't force me, I'll do anything. The young woman begged for mercy. She seemed to be implying something. As she spoke, her expression became somewhat charming, and her eyes became watery. Yang Kai's expression remained indifferent as he remained unmoved. Suddenly, a strange force appeared on his fingertips as he said in a low voice filled with impatience, "Speak, or die." As he spoke, he slowly poked the young woman's forehead. Seeing Yang Kai's heart of stone, the young woman finally panicked and said, "Go to the Jiang family, maybe you can find her there." The Jiang family? Yang Kai's finger stopped 3 inches away from the young woman's forehead, and the power lingering on his fingertips suddenly dissipated. He looked at the young woman thoughtfully and said, "No wonder you have such misgivings. It's the Jiang family. But, why did the Jiang family take her away?" "I don't know." The young woman shook her head. "A month ago, a few men came to talk to her, and then she left with them. I was curious, so I quietly followed them and found that they entered the Jiang family. I really don't know anything else. Even if you kill me, it's useless." She took the initiative to follow them. Yang Kai frowned. "Yes." The young woman nodded. "Good. Thank you for telling me this, madam. I'll take my leave." Yang Kai cupped his fists and rushed out in a flash. After Yang Kai left, the young woman fell to the ground like a puddle of mud, her clothes soaked in sweat. She didn't belong to any sect. She was able to cultivate to the First Order Origin King realm by relying on her own efforts and various opportunities. She had never come into contact with a Dao Source Realm master. Today, Yang Kai had intimidated her at such a close distance, scaring her half to death. Fortunately, Yang Kai was reasonable and didn't really do anything to her. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to resist. After a while, the young woman came back to her senses. She immediately got up and rushed into the cave mansion to pack up her things. After a short while, the young woman walked out of the cave mansion and went straight out of the city gate. Soon, she left Maplewood City. She didn't dare to continue to stay in Maplewood City. If the Jiang family were to track her down one day, she would be in big trouble. As far as she knew, the Jiang family wasn't as easy to talk to as Mr. Yang. Chapter 2061. Yang Kai had never had any dealings with the Jiang family of Maplewood City, but he had heard of them many times. He knew that this family was not weak in Maplewood City, and there seemed to be a Dao Source Realm old ancestor in the family. There were many families in Maplewood City, but only a few had a Dao Source Realm master. The Jiang family was one, and the Qin family was another, Jiang Chu He, whom Yang Kai had met at the Soaring Dragon altar in the first layer of the 5-colored treasure pagoda, was the leader of the younger generation of the Jiang family. He was a third-order origin king, and as long as he had enough opportunities, he could break through to the Dao Source realm. The Jiang family had been in Maplewood City for hundreds of thousands of years, and their relationship with the other great families and even the City Lord's mansion was quite complicated. Although Yang Kai did not know why the Jiang family took Zhong Ruoshi away, a Saint King realm girl was certainly not of much use to them. He was afraid that some playboy of the Jiang family had taken a fancy to Zhong Ruoshi's beauty and wanted to molest her. If that was the case, it would be too late. After all, Zhong Ruoshi was taken away by the Jiang family a month ago. Anything could happen in a month. However, what Yang Kai was more concerned about was why Zhong Ruoshi had taken the initiative to leave with the Jiang family. But when he thought about it carefully, Zhong Ruoshi was still young, and she had never left the Zhong family before. Her mind was pure, and she might have been deceived. To deal with a little girl like her, a few words of coaxing might be enough to make her submit. Secretly anxious, young Kai was also a little annoyed that he could not even take care of a little girl. Since he was going to the Jiang family to find Zhong Ruoxi, he could not go there openly. What if he touched a nerve of the Jiang family? If he forced them to kill Zhong Ruoxi to silence her, it would be too late for regrets. Therefore, young Kai decided to investigate the Jiang family first. If Zhong Ruoxi was really in the Jiang family, with his current powerful divine sense, he should be able to find her without anyone noticing. After making up his mind, young Kai did not wait until it was dark and went straight to the Jiang family's location. In the east of Maplewood City, there was a continuous stretch of residences. It occupied an area of about a few dozen acres. It was surrounded by red walls and blue tiles. It was surrounded by a tall wall. People who lived in Maplewood City all year round knew that this was the foundation of the Jiang family in Maplewood City. Most of the important members of the Jiang family lived here. Young Kai came to a wall and released his divine sense. After probing for a moment, he was surprised to find that the wall was filled with restrictions and traps. However, this kind of restriction was naturally not a problem for him. Of course, he wouldn't touch her. Just as young Kai was about to jump over the wall to investigate, his expression suddenly changed slightly. He turned around and used his nihility secret technique to hide to the side. A moment later, a graceful figure suddenly shot over from not far away and landed where young Kai was standing before. He looked around. Then, he scratched his head and muttered to himself with a blank expression, "It should be here. Where did it go? How strange." Hearing the voice, young Kai was startled. He couldn't help but look over and call out in surprise, "Little Seven?" He found that the person who had come was the mysterious Mo Xiaoqi. The two hadn't seen each other for more than a year since they parted ways in the five-colored treasure pagoda. Now, young Kai had just returned to Maplewood City and this girl had come looking for him. She was an acquaintance. Young Kai naturally didn't need to hide anymore. After dispelling his nihility secret technique and revealing his figure again, Mo Xiaoqi immediately discovered him. She walked over with a grin and said happily, "Big brother Yang, it's really you. I thought I was mistaken. Where have you been for the past 6 months? Why weren't you in Maplewood City?" She asked a lot of questions in rapid succession. Young Kai didn't even have a chance to answer. Young Kai smiled bitterly and said, "I went out for some business some time ago. I didn't return until today." "Oh." Mo Xiaoqi nodded after hearing this and giggled, "I thought Big Brother Yang had left without saying goodbye. I was sad for a long time." Young Kai smiled and said, "If I had really left, I would have told you. But how did you find me?" Mo Xiaoqi stuck out her tongue and said embarrassedly, "The sound bead I gave you before. It has a tracking brand on it. As long as the distance isn't too far, it can be detected." Young Kai suddenly understood and took out the bead from his space ring. He looked at it and couldn't see anything special about it, so he put it back. Mo Xiaoqi looked around and suddenly lowered her voice and said, "This is the Jiang family. Big brother Yang, are you going in?" Young Kai nodded. Mo Xiaoqi's beautiful eyes lit up and she asked quietly, "Why are you going in? Did the Jiang family offend you in some way? Do you need my help?" She had an excited look on her face, as if she had found something extremely fun. Young Kai sighed and briefly told her about Zhong Ruoxi. After hearing this, Mo Xiaoqi was filled with righteous indignation and said, "The Jiang family's reputation has always been bad. This time, they actually made a move on Sister Ruoxi. It's really abominable. Now I'm not sure why the Jiang family took Ruoxi away." Young Kai frowned, "That's why I wanted to quietly investigate. I'll help you. But Big Brother Yang, you should have told me earlier that there was someone in your cave mansion. If you had told me earlier, I would have taken Sister Ruoxi to my place." Mo Xiaoqi looked at young Kai with some resentment. Young Kai coughed and said embarrassedly, "I didn't know I would be away for so long. Hey, let's not talk about this for now. I'll tell you what Ruoxi looks like. Pay more attention after you go in." Mo Xiaoqi nodded repeatedly and listened carefully, remembering Zhong Ruoxi's appearance. A 16 or 17-year-old girl with a peak second-order Saint King realm cultivation. Such characteristics were very obvious. If Zhongruo she was really in the Jiang family, it shouldn't be difficult to find her. Be careful, the Jiang family has a Dao Source Realm master overseeing it. Don't let yourself be discovered, Yang Kai warned her before leaving. Mo Xiaoqi smiled and said, don't worry. The Jiang family's old ancestor doesn't live in Maplewood City. He is in retreat in his manor all year round. Hearing her say so, Yang Kai was no longer worried. As long as the Jiang family didn't have a Dao Source Realm master, no one should be able to discover him and Mo Xiaoqi. Although Mo Xiaoqi was only a third-order origin king, she acted mysteriously and her concealment secret technique was excellent. There was no need to worry about being exposed. Then, the two agreed on a time to meet up and split up. Since he confirmed from Mo Xiaoqi that the Jiang family's old ancestor wasn't here, Yang Kai acted more boldly. After quietly sneaking into the Jiang family, he released his divine sense and easily swept through every corner and inch of the Jiang family. But as time passed, Yang Kai's expression became more and more solemn. He couldn't find any trace of Zhongruoshi in the Jiang family. 2 hours later, the sky turned dark. In a small alley not far from the Jiang family's walls, Yang Kai and Mo Xiaoqi reunited. After exchanging a glance, Mo Xiaoqi slowly shook her head. Yang Kai's expression darkened and he frowned. Big brother Yang, what should we do now? Will little sister Ruo she be okay? Mo Xiaoqi was also worried. Right now, Zhongruo she was nowhere to be found, dead or alive. This was the worst possible situation. Although she had never met Zhongruoshi before, the naturally kind Mo Xiaoqi was also worried. I hope she's fine. Yang Kai's face was so gloomy that it was scary. After pondering for a moment, he said, since this won't work, we can only inquire directly. I hope the Jiang family won't do anything to bring about their own destruction. Hearing this, Mo Xiaoqi took a deep look at Yang Kai and nodded, let's go together. Yang Kai had no objection. After a short while, the two arrived in front of the Jiang family's main gate. The two Jiang family guards at the gate immediately stopped them. One of them seemed to have noticed that Yang Kai and Mo Xiaoqi had high cultivations, so he didn't dare to be too negligent. He cupped his fists and asked politely, may I ask why you have come to my Jiang mansion so late at night? Yang Kai returned the courtesy and said, please inform Patriarch Jiang that Spirit Pill Plaza's alchemist Yang Kai wishes to see him. Spirit Pill Plaza's alchemist? The guard at the gate was shocked when he heard this. He looked at Yang Kai from head to toe before he said seriously, please wait a moment, I will inform the Patriarch right away. Spirit Pill Plaza was quite famous in Maplewood City. After all, it was a business set up by the Violet Source Chamber of Commerce. Only an Origin King grade alchemist could work as an alchemist in Spirit Pill Plaza and refine spirit pills. The guard at the gate didn't dare to be careless when such a person suddenly came to visit the Jiang family. He hurriedly rushed inside, obviously to report to the Jiang family's patriarch. Yang Kai had no choice but to borrow the name of Spirit Pill Plaza's alchemist. After all, his name was nothing in Maplewood City. Only his identity as an alchemist could make the Jiang family pay attention to him and make the Jiang family have scruples. It would be more convenient for him to inquire about Zhongruoshi's whereabouts safely. Yang Kai and Mo Xiaoqi waited outside for less than half a cup of tea's time before a burst of hearty laughter suddenly came from inside the Jiang mansion. Before the person arrived, the voice had already reached them. Spirit Pill Plaza's alchemist Yang has graced the Jiang family with his presence. This old man, Jiang Lin, welcomes alchemist Yang. Just as the words fell, an old man with a ruddy complexion, who looked to be in his 50s, walked out and cupped his fists enthusiastically. This person was naturally the current patriarch of the Jiang family, Jiang Lin. Jiang Lin wore a long blue robe and had a dignified appearance. The light in his eyes was restrained, so he didn't look too conspicuous. However, the source qi in his body was extremely pure. Yang Kai secretly nodded, thinking that the rumors about the Jiang family's patriarch being able to break through to the Dao Source realm in the near future were true. Behind Jiang Lin, there were some other third-order origin king cultivator. They didn't look young and should be some elders of the Jiang family. Among them, Jiang Chu, his figure was also among them. When he saw Yang Kai, Jiang Chu, he couldn't help but be stunned. He obviously didn't expect that Yang Kai was actually an alchemist of Spirit Pill Plaza. After all, he had seen Yang Kai at the Soaring Dragon altar before. Chapter 2062. The Jiang family's patriarch, Jiang Lin, and many elders came out to greet him, obviously giving Yang Kai enough face. Seeing this, Yang Kai cupped his fists in a manner that was neither servile nor overbearing. I had no choice but to visit so late at night. I hope you won't blame me for disturbing Patriarch Jiang and everyone else. What are you talking about? It is my Jiang family's fortune that Alchemist Yang can come to visit. We can't wait to welcome you, so how can we disturb you? Jiang Lin was extremely enthusiastic as he laughed heartily. Then, he turned to the side and gestured, Alchemist Yang, let's talk inside. Yang Kai gently nodded and signaled to Mo Xiaoqi with his eyes. Under Jiang Lin's lead, they went straight inside the Jiang family. After a short while, everyone arrived at the Jiang family's guest hall and took their seats. The servants had already received the news and prepared fragrant tea and served it one by one. Under Jiang Lin's enthusiastic hospitality, Yang Kai took a few sips of tea and praised absent-mindedly. Jiang Lin didn't seem to notice as he chuckled and said, I have long heard of Spirit Pill Plaza's Alchemist Yang's name, but I never had the chance to meet you. I never thought that Alchemist Yang would come to my Jiang family in person today. This Jiang is really surprised and pleasantly surprised. Yang Kai showed a hint of surprise and said, Patriarch Jiang has heard of me. He thought that Jiang Lin was just being polite and didn't expect him to actually know him. Jiang Lin smiled and said, Alchemist Yang's name is probably known by everyone with a little status in Maplewood City. To tell you the truth, my Jiang family purchased a lot of the source condensing pills you refined. Many of our disciples benefited from it. Alchemist Yang, with your own strength, prevented the Spirit Pill Plaza from closing down. I have long heard of you. Listening to his explanation, Kai Yang finally understood. Although he didn't show up in public during the few months he was refining pills in Spirit Pill Plaza, some things that happened in Spirit Pill Plaza couldn't be hidden from these local tyrants. So it was not surprising that he knew about the existence of Yang Kai. There aren't many alchemists in Maplewood City, and there are even fewer alchemists who can refine source condensing pills. Even if Alchemist Yang doesn't want to become famous, someone has already spread your name far and wide. Jiang Lin chuckled before suddenly changing the topic and inquiring, however, Alchemist Yang's name has already spread far and wide. I heard that Alchemist Yang has left the Spirit Pill Plaza? No longer concocting pills for the Spirit Pill Plaza? I don't know if this news is true or not. Yang Kai had no intention of concealing this and nodded. Yes, at that time, I had an agreement with shopkeeper Kang that I would only perform alchemy for Spirit Pill Plaza for 2 months. That time limit has already passed. Really? Jiang Lin was overjoyed. Not only did Jiang Lin show a joyful expression, but even the Jiang family elders who were sitting at the side were also moved. They all looked at Yang Kai with burning eyes, as if they were looking at a great beauty. She couldn't wait to swallow him whole. Seeing this situation, Yang Kai frowned and said, Alchemy is not my major, so I have no intention of developing in this territory. So it's like that. Jiang Lin was old and experienced, so how could he not understand the meaning of Yang Kai's words? He said with some disappointment, if Alchemist Yang has such a choice. That's a pity. Ian, I wonder why Alchemist Yang has come to my Jiang family this time. If my Jiang family can help you in any way, we will certainly not refuse. Although Yang Kai said so, he was still an Origin King grade alchemist after all. There was no harm in having a good relationship with such a person. How could Jiang Lin let go of this opportunity to curry favor with him? He also knew that since Yang Kai had come to the Jiang family, he must have something to ask of them. Yang Kai pondered for a moment and said, since Patriarch Jiang has asked, I will be straightforward. Then I'll get straight to the point. I came to your family this time mainly to look for someone. Find someone? Jiang Lin frowned. The other elders also had suspicious expressions on their faces. They didn't know who Yang Kai was looking for in the Jiang family. Jiang Lin asked, "May I ask who Alchemist Yang is looking for?" "A little girl, 16 or 17 years old, with a peak second-order Saint King cultivation." Yang Kai briefly described Zhong Ruoxi's appearance and some of her characteristics. As he spoke, the eyelids of an old man with a ruddy complexion sitting on his left suddenly twitched slightly, but he immediately returned to normal. Yang Kai's divine sense immediately captured this detail. His heart immediately moved, and he glanced at the old man thoughtfully. The old man immediately lowered his eyes and remained motionless. After listening to Yang Kai's description, Jiang Lin looked at the people present with an inquiring look and asked, "Does our Jiang family have such a little girl?" An old man sitting next to Jiang Lin immediately stood up and cupped his fists, reporting to Patriarch, "My Jiang family may have such a little girl, but I don't know if she is the person Alchemist Yang is looking for." "Good, then bring her here and let Alchemist Yang take a look. If she is really the person Alchemist Yang is looking for, my Jiang family will naturally not let her stay," Jiang Lin said happily. "No need." Before Yang Kai could speak, Mo Xiaoqi, who had been sitting silently next to him, waved her hand and said, "The person we are looking for is not here." Jiang Lin couldn't help but frown. He glanced at Mo Xiaoqi, then at Yang Kai, and asked suspiciously, "Alchemist Yang, what do you mean? Since you came to my Jiang family to look for someone, why did you say that she is not in my Jiang family? This Jiang is truly confused by all of you. Could it be that you have secretly investigated my Jiang family before? Is that why you are so sure?" A Jiang family elder suddenly thought of something, and his face changed slightly as he shouted in a deep voice. When the others heard this, their faces also darkened as they looked at Yang Kai and Mo Xiaoqi with some displeasure. Mo Xiaoqi suddenly realized that she had just said something wrong and couldn't help shrinking her head, feeling a little guilty. Yang Kai, on the other hand, was calm as he said, "Don't misunderstand, it's just that I put some seals on that little girl. As long as she is not too far away, I can sense her through the power of the seals, so I can be so sure." "So that's how it is." Jiang Lin nodded with a look of understanding, and immediately said, "But in that case, why did Alchemist Yang come to my Jiang family to look for someone?" "It's like this." Yang Kai sighed and said, "Someone saw that little girl leave with your Jiang family's people and enter the Jiang mansion, so this Yang took the liberty to come here and disturb you. But for some unknown reason, she is no longer here. If anyone here knows her whereabouts, please do me a favor. This Yang will be very grateful." "Someone saw her? Who saw her?" The Jiang family elder who spoke earlier questioned sternly. "I really can't tell you." Yang Kai shook his head. He couldn't give up that young woman, and according to his estimation, that young woman had probably left Maplewood City at this moment. Pure slander. The Jiang family elder flicked his sleeve angrily. "If my Jiang family really had that little girl, why would we hide anything? My Jiang family wouldn't do anything shameful." "No one said you were doing anything shameful." Mo Xiaoqi curled her lips when she heard this. "You." The Jiang family elder was furious. "Enough." Jiang Lin also frowned and waved his hand. He glared at the elder, then turned to Yang Kai and said, "Alchemist Yang, you didn't see that little girl enter the Jiang family with your own eyes. It was just hearsay, so how can you take it seriously? Moreover, you can sense that little girl through the seals, so you should know better than anyone whether she is in the Jiang mansion or not." Yang Kai nodded. "I know that this matter may be a little difficult for you, but that little girl is very important to me. How about this, Alchemist Yang? Since this matter has already involved my Jiang family, this Jiang naturally can't sit idly by. My Jiang family has some strength in Maplewood City, so we can help you investigate. If we can find the whereabouts of that little girl, it would be best for my Jiang family to clear our name. What do you think, Alchemist Yang?" After saying this, Jiang Lin looked at Yang Kai with a burning gaze. Yang Kai narrowed his eyes. After a while, he nodded lightly and said, "Then I'll have to trouble Patriarch Jiang. If the Jiang family can bring that little girl to this Yang will promise to refine pills for the Jiang family for a month. I forgot to tell Patriarch Jiang that this Yang is now an Origin King grade high-rank alchemist. If luck is good, refining Dao Source grade spirit pills won't be a problem. Since the day he refined the Dao Source pill, Yang Kai was already a Dao Source-grade alchemist. However, even in the star boundary, Dao Source-grade alchemists were extremely rare. Of course, Yang Kai couldn't tell others casually. His identity as an Origin King-grade high-rank alchemist was enough. Sure enough, as soon as this statement came out, the Jiang family's people were all shocked. Origin King-grade high-rank alchemist? Refining pills for a month. Even Jiang Lin's eyes were burning. Although he knew that one had to be at least Origin King-grade to become an alchemist of Spirit Pill Plaza, he really didn't expect Yang Kai to be an Origin King-grade high-rank alchemist. Such an alchemist was a huge attraction to any family. If they could get his friendship and help, it would be of great benefit to the future development of their family. If he advanced to the Dao Source grade in the future, the Jiang family wouldn't be able to climb up to him. For a moment, Jiang Lin and many Jiang family elders' breathing became rapid. But if that girl is harmed in any way, I'll make sure that whoever dares to lay a hand on her will have their entire family wiped out. As soon as Yang Kai's voice fell, the faces of the Jiang family's people suddenly changed, and they all became cold and stern. Jiang Lin's face twitched slightly a few times before he smiled and said, "If the person who took that little girl away knows that she has such a relationship with Alchemist Yang, I'm sure they won't dare to be rude to her. They will treat her as a guest of honor." "I hope so." Yang Kai nodded lightly. After he finished speaking, he got up and cupped his fists. "This Yang will take his leave now. I won't see you out." After he finished speaking, he winked at Mo Xiaoqi, and the two quickly left under the gazes of the Jiang family's people. In the reception hall, the atmosphere was a little dignified. For a long time after Yang Kai left, no one spoke. The Jiang family's higher-ups just looked at each other and exchanged glances. Some unknown information was quickly transmitted in the air. Chapter 2063. After a long time, someone shouted angrily, "This Yang Kai is really arrogant. He actually dares to come to my Jiang family and behave atrociously." The one who spoke was Jiang Chu He, the leader of the new generation. When they met Yang Kai at the Soaring Dragon altar in the first layer of the five-colored treasure pagoda, everyone was still a cultivator who had entered to gain experience. But today, the other party had changed into an alchemy grandmaster that even the patriarch and the elders did not dare to ignore. The other party's status had suddenly changed. However, he had no right to interrupt the discussion just now, which made him feel very uncomfortable in his heart. Moreover, the other party had not even spared him a single glance after coming to the Jiang family. It was clear that the other party was looking down on him. Yes, he even dared to threaten us in the end. He is really hateful. The elder who spoke earlier also had a gloomy look on his face. Jiang Lin coldly snorted and said indifferently, "This is not the place to talk. Come with me." As soon as he finished speaking, he stood up straight. The others also hurriedly followed. A moment later, everyone gathered in a secret room of the Jiang family. Jiang Lin swept his gaze across everyone and asked, "Elders, is the person Alchemist Yang is looking for in that place?" One of them heard this and sighed, "A peak second-order Saint King should be in that place. Patriarch, you should know that the people we have been looking for a while ago were mainly of this cultivation level. It is possible that Alchemist Yang's friend was really brought in." Another elder also stood up and cupped his fists. "That little girl. I have some impression of her." "Oh." Jiang Lin heard this and glanced at the elder. He then said, "So, was she really sent in?" "Yes." The elder gently nodded. That day, two disciples of the family saw the little girl standing alone in the city. She had been standing there for a whole month, so they assumed that she had no relatives or friends. After a little investigation, they found that she indeed had no background or backing in Maplewood City. Thus, I introduced her to the Jiang family and sent her into the mine with the others. After pausing for a moment, the elder said with a headache, "This old master didn't expect that little girl to know Alchemist Yang. Now it seems that the person she was waiting for in the city was Alchemist Yang. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have sent her to the mine. Since the person is indeed with us, then what should we do now?" Someone was very dissatisfied. "It's impossible to hand him over. The minerals produced in that mine are extremely rare and precious. It's the hope of our Jiang family's rise. The matter of the mine must not be leaked. If we really bring her back, we won't be able to hide the mine anymore. If the city lord's mansion finds out about it, my Jiang family will be in danger, since you can't bring it back. Then we can only, another person said coldly. Everyone turned to look at Jiang Lin. Jiang Lin also looked like he was having a headache. After all, Yang Kai had said that if the Jiang family could send Zhong Ruoxi back safe and sound, he would refine pills for the Jiang family for a month. Such a good thing was missed, which made Jiang Lin very sad. Patriarch, we can't hesitate. Yang Kai said that the little girl has a seal on her. As long as she isn't too far away, he can sense her. If Yang Kai senses the little girl's location, the secret of the mine can't be hidden anymore. Compared to the mine, refining pills for a month for an Origin King-grade high-rank alchemist is nothing. What's more, this matter involves the interests of the City Lord's mansion. If the City Lord's mansion finds out, there will be no place for our Jiang family in Maplewood City. Yes, Patriarch, we can't hesitate anymore. Facing everyone's persuasion, Jiang Lin sighed. Obviously, he had made a decision. He looked up at one of the elders and said, "Fifth elder, I'll leave this matter to you. Be sure to do it cleanly." Hearing this, the fifth elder cupped his fists and said, "You can rest assured. You can all disperse." Jiang Lin waved his hand, "Don't go to the mine for a while. Tell them to be careful, lest Yang Kai finds out anything." "Yes." Everyone roared in response. After leaving the Jiang family, Yang Kai's face was gloomy. Mo Xiaoqi said, "I always felt that there was something wrong with the Jiang family. Little sister Ruo, she might really be with them. That should be it." Yang Kai recalled the change in the expression of one of the Jiang family elders during their previous conversation. He already had a guess in his heart, but she really isn't in the Jiang family. Where is she? Why are the Jiang family hiding her? Yang Kai really couldn't understand. Just as he was pondering, Mo Xiaoqi suddenly clapped her hands, as if she had thought of something, and said, "By the way, big brother Yang, do you have anything that little sister Ruoxi used?" "Something that she used?" Yang Kai frowned. "What do you want to do? If you have something that she used, I might have a way to trace her whereabouts." "Really?" Yang Kai's face lit up. "Yes, but it must be something with her aura. It's best if it's something that she used often, such as clothes, hair, etc." Mo Xiaoqi tilted her head and said, "I don't have those things, but what? There's a place that definitely has them." Yang Kai raised the corner of his mouth and waved his hand, "Come with me." As soon as he finished speaking, he wrapped Mo Xiaoqi in his source qi and rushed in a certain direction as fast as lightning. When Yang Kai used his source qi like this, Mo Xiaoqi immediately noticed it and looked at Yang Kai in surprise. "Big brother Yang, you broke through to the Dao source realm?" She hadn't paid much attention to Yang Kai's changes before, and Yang Kai deliberately hid his aura, so Mo Xiaoqi didn't notice that Yang Kai had broken through. Yang Kai nodded. "I went out a while ago and had some opportunities, so I was lucky enough to break through." "Big brother Yang, you're really amazing," Mo Xiaoqi sincerely admired. Yang Kai shook his head. "Dao source realm is nothing, you will break through soon." Hearing this, Mo Xiaoqi giggled. It seemed that he really had a lot of confidence. Not long after, Yang Kai took Mo Xiaoqi to a manor 300 kilometers outside Maplewood City. This was the Zhong family's mansion. Yang Kai didn't have anything that Zhong Ruoxi had used, but the Zhong family definitely had it. Letting Mo Xiaoqi wait outside the manor, Yang Kai sneaked into the Zhong family's mansion alone. He didn't disturb the old woman and the beautiful woman of the Zhong family. After all, this matter involved Zhong Ruoxi, and Yang Kai didn't want them to worry. Sweeping with his divine sense, Yang Kai found that the Zhong family's mansion was peaceful, although there were many barriers and spirit arrays in the manor. But how could the means of a small family stop Yang Kai? After breaking through to the Dao source realm, the power of his divine sense was much stronger than before. He easily avoided the many barriers and arrived at Zhong Ruoxi's boudoir. Looking around, the boudoir was spotless and tidy as if it was new. Obviously, someone often came to clean it. On the fragrant bed, there were several neatly folded clothes. Those should be the clothes that Zhong Ruo she used to wear. Yang Kai didn't look at them carefully, grabbing them and stuffing them into his space ring. He quickly left the Zhong family's mansion. After a short while, he returned outside and handed the clothes to Mo Xiaoqi, saying, "Take a look and see if this is okay." Mo Xiaoqi took it, picked up the topmost one, and shook it casually. Then, she shook it open. The next moment, Mo Xiaoqi's pretty face couldn't help but blush, and she glared at Yang Kai reproachfully. Yang Kai also had a dumbfounded expression on his face. He withdrew his gaze from the clothes and said embarrassedly, "I just took it casually." Only now did he realize that it was actually a small, close-fitting bra. It was pink in color and looked very small and exquisite. Looking at the other clothes in Mo Xiaoqi's hands, they were also close-fitting clothes. For a moment, Yang Kai couldn't help but blush, feeling uncomfortable all over. Mo Xiaoqi stomped her feet shyly. She put away the other clothes, then turned around, facing Yang Kai with her back, and patted a cloth bag on her waist. In the next moment, accompanied by a strange squeak, the heaven-escaping bat that Yang Kai had seen before appeared. The small heaven-escaping bat circled around Mo Xiaoqi, then stood firmly on her shoulder. Mo Xiaoqi's expression turned solemn, her hands forming a seal, her mouth chanting something, but no one could understand what she was saying. After a while, she reached out and bit her fingertip, drawing a strange spirit array on Zhong Ruoshi's small bra, then pointed her blood-stained finger at the heaven-escaping bat's forehead. Squeak squeak. The spirit array on the small bra turned into a stream of light and shot into the heaven-escaping bat's forehead, disappearing in the blink of an eye. In the next moment, the heaven-escaping bat's nose twitched, and with a flap of its wings, it flew into the air, nimbly turned a corner, and shot straight in a certain direction. "Keep up!" Mo Xiaoqi shouted tenderly as she put away her little bra and hurriedly followed behind Xiao Fu. Seeing this, Yang Kai did not hesitate and hurriedly followed. 2,000 kilometers away from Maplewood City, in a barren mountain. This barren mountain looked extremely desolate on the surface, with not even a blade of grass growing, and the world energy was extremely thin. There was no cultivator living here, only a small village stood there, and the people living in this village were ordinary people who could not cultivate. However, because this barren mountain was close to Maplewood City, there were no wild beasts or monster beast, so even ordinary people could live and work here in peace. In a hidden cave in the barren mountain, 2 first-order origin king cultivator were resting with their eyes closed. Suddenly, one of them, a man in a white robe, seemed to have noticed something and hurriedly opened his eyes. With a flip of his hand, a communication artifact appeared in his palm. He immersed himself in it, and after reading the message sent, he could not help but let out a soft cry of surprise. "What's the order from the family?" The other person also opened his eyes and asked. The white-robed man said with a strange expression, "Fifth Elder sent a message, asking us to deal with a little girl who was brought here a month ago." "A little girl?" The other person frowned and asked suspiciously, "Why would the family send such an order? Is there something strange about that little girl?" "I don't know," Fifth Elder did not say. The white-robed man shook his head. "Since it's Fifth Elder's order, then you quickly go and deal with it. I'll watch over here first," the other person urged. Chapter 2064. After a brief discussion between the two, the white-robed man immediately flashed into the cave and stood on top of a spirit array. Immediately, he took out a few pieces of source crystals and threw them into the grooves around the spirit array. Then, he made a hand seal and the spirit array immediately started operating. Accompanied by a buzzing sound and a faint fluctuation of space force, the white-robed man soon disappeared. Seeing this, the other Jiang family cultivator who was guarding here retracted his gaze and closed his eyes again to rest. After about an incense stick worth of time, a small beast suddenly landed on a small slope 3 kilometers away from the cave. Mo Xiaoqi and Yang Kai's figures also appeared behind it. The little beast sniffed the air in front of it, and then squeaked. Mo Xiaoqi frowned and turned to Yang Kai worriedly. "Big brother Yang, Xiao Fu said that Sister Ruoshi's aura disappeared in that cave." Hearing this, Yang Kai's expression turned solemn and he quickly released his divine sense to investigate. After a short while, he exclaimed softly, "A space array? There's a space array in there." Mo Xiaoqi looked at Yang Kai in surprise when she heard this. Yang Kai nodded and said, "Yes, and it seems to have been used just now. There are some residual space force fluctuations around it. There is a first-order origin king cultivator guarding the cave. It seems that we have found the right place. Are we going to break in?" Mo Xiaoqi inquired. "Of course." Yang Kai nodded. Suddenly, his expression changed and he shouted in a low voice, "Not good, Ruoshi may be in danger." He suddenly realized that he had just inquired about the situation from the Jiang family. Someone here had used a space array. This was very likely to have something to do with the Jiang family. Perhaps the Jiang family's higher-ups had sent a message to silence Zhong Ruoshi. Thinking of this, Yang Kai suddenly became nervous. He didn't care about hiding his figure anymore. With a flicker, he shot straight over. Inside the cave, the Jiang family cultivator who was guarding this place was also very clever. The moment Yang Kai moved, he opened his eyes and saw a stream of light shooting over from the front. His face couldn't help but change drastically. Circulating the Saint Qi in his body, he suddenly stood up and looked forward with an unfriendly expression. But when Yang Kai's aura enveloped him, the Jiang family cultivator immediately turned pale and exclaimed, "Dao Source Realm." He was just a first-order origin cultivator. His domain had just been condensed, so how could he possibly be a match for a Dao Source Realm master? Just as he finished speaking, Kai Yang had already arrived in front of him and lightly pressed his palm against his chest. This person only felt a huge force pass through his chest and his whole body uncontrollably flew backwards. Blood splattered everywhere in the air. Yang Kai didn't kill him. After all, he still hadn't figured out the relationship between Zhong Ruoshi's situation and the Jiang family, so he couldn't bear to kill him rashly. However, with this palm strike, the other party would be unconscious for at least a few days, which was enough for him to find out everything. After landing, Yang Kai immediately cast his gaze on the space array in the cave. Mo Xiaoqi also followed at this time. After a while, Yang Kai couldn't help but let out a cry of surprise. "Big brother Yang, did you find anything?" Mo Xiaoqi asked. This array was not set up by the Jiang family, nor was it set up recently. It seems to have been here for many years. Yang Kai frowned. The space array in the cave was old and mottled. There were countless traces of the flowing time Great Emperor. Obviously, it had been here for many years. However, it had been hidden in this cave in this barren mountain, so it was basically impossible for it to be discovered. He didn't know how the Jiang family knew about this place and where they used it to teleport to. Is there any secret hidden here? Mo Xiaoqi suddenly became interested. Her pair of beautiful eyes glowed with a strange light as she kept looking at the array. Let's study it later. Yang Kai was worried about Zhong Ruoshi's safety, so he didn't have the heart to investigate it carefully. He flashed and stood on the array. Mo Xiaoqi nodded and also walked in. Yang Kai immediately urged his space force and poured it into the array. In the next moment, the array hummed, and with a flash of light, the two disappeared together. They didn't know how many meters underground, but in a dark and humid environment, Yang Kai and Mo Xiaoqi appeared leisurely. But before they could check their surroundings, they heard someone shout, "Who are you? How dare you break into my Jiang family's mystic ground?" As soon as the words fell, two violent attacks came from the left and right, leaving no room for explanation. Judging from the energy fluctuations of the attacks, these two were third-order origin king cultivator. Yang Kai's eyes suddenly turned cold. Without even looking, he shouted, "Condense." The space principles fluctuated, and the surrounding space suddenly solidified, as if it had obeyed his command. The attacks that had just arrived in front of Yang Kai and Mo Xiaoqi strangely dissipated, revealing two figures, one on the left and one on the right. The two didn't seem to have expected that their attacks would be resolved in such an incredible way, and for a moment, they were stunned in place. However, the person on the left immediately reacted and shouted in shock, "Principal strength, a Dao Source Realm master." While speaking, he tapped his feet on the ground and immediately floated backwards. He actually saw that the situation was bad and was about to escape. But how could Yang Kai let him do as he wished? With a flick of his finger, a golden blood thread shot out and wrapped around the person, directly binding him. Feeling the sharp aura emanating from the golden blood thread, the person's forehead was immediately covered in sweat. How could he dare to make any movements? He was afraid that he would be cut into pieces if he made the slightest mistake. After standing up straight, he looked at Yang Kai in horror. The other person was also dumbfounded at this moment, standing in place. In front of him, Mo Xiaoqi was holding a sharp dagger in her hand. This dagger exuded a cold light as it was pressed against this man's chest. Obviously, Mo Xiaoqi had subdued this person while he was in a daze. Yang Kai's gaze swept over the two with a cold expression. The person on the left asked in a trembling voice, "Who are you two? Why did you break into my Jiang family's mystic ground and attack us? You don't need to know who I am. I'm here to find someone. If you cooperate with me honestly, maybe I can spare your life." Yang Kai looked at him coldly and said in a cold tone, "Find someone?" When the person heard this, he immediately frowned and looked at Yang Kai anxiously. A drop of sweat silently slid down his forehead as he asked with difficulty, "May I know who your excellency is looking for? Is there a little girl named Zhong Ruoshi here?" Yang Kai asked. The two Jiang family origin King Realm cultivator looked at each other. The one who spoke first smiled bitterly and said, "We were just ordered to guard the entrance. We don't know the names of those people. Big brother Yang, there's no need to ask. Xiao Fu has already smelled little sister Ruoshi's aura. She's really here," Mo Xiaoqi suddenly said excitedly. Yang Kai quickly looked over and sure enough, he saw the heaven-escaping bat's eyes flashing. It was squeaking in a certain direction, as if it had really found something. "I'll leave this place to you. Lend me Xiao Fu." After Yang Kai finished speaking, he pointed a few fingers at the two third-order origin King Realm cultivator and poured a few streams of source qi into their bodies. Immediately, the two of them let out a muffled groan and blood flowed out of the corners of their mouths. Immediately, Yang Kai waved to the heaven-escaping bat and the little beast immediately flew forward. "Big brother Yang, be careful. There's something strange here," Mo Xiaoqi exhorted behind him. Yang Kai nodded and didn't slow down. Flying all the way, Yang Kai had time to carefully observe his surroundings. This place was like an underground mine. The mine was connected in all directions and had countless branches. From time to time, clanking sounds could be heard from the bottom of the branches, as if someone was mining something. However, the places Yang Kai passed by had already been mined, leaving only pieces of exposed rock. Following the little beast around, Yang Kai soon entered a fork in the road. In that fork, Yang Kai felt the auras of many living beings. Not long after, in the dim light of the mine, Yang Kai discovered that many people were knocking on the walls of the mine, causing gravel to fall down continuously. What concerned Yang Kai was that these people were all below the Saint King realm. None of them were above the origin returning realm. All of them were handcuffed with special bracelets and anklets. The slightest movement would make a clattering sound, making it impossible for them to hide their whereabouts. Perhaps sensing something, these people who were mining all turned their heads to look at Yang Kai. Seeing these pairs of lifeless eyes, Yang Kai's heart sank. He didn't know how long they had been locked up here, nor did he know how long they had been mining ores here. All of these cultivators below the Saint King realm looked extremely exhausted, their clothes in tatters, only a few of them still maintaining some semblance of vitality. There were even a few rotting corpses on the ground nearby, causing the already stagnant mine tunnel to be filled with a foul stench. Yang Kai's figure came to a halt as he glanced around and asked, "Which one of you is the leader? Stand out and speak." When the cultivator heard this, they were all silent. They just looked at each other. Most of them had a look of fear in their eyes, as if they didn't dare to stand out at all. After a long while, a young cultivator stood out. This young man looked less than 30 years old. His clothes were tattered, revealing his strong body. Although the aura on his body was a little weak, it was much better than the others. This person stood not far in front of Yang Kai, cupped his fists, and said, "This one is Ju Kang. May I ask what advice Senior has for me?" Although Yang Kai looked about the same age as him, his cultivation was far higher than his, so he took it for granted that Yang Kai was an old monster who had lived for hundreds of years. There was nothing wrong with calling him senior. Who are you all? Why are you all here? Yang Kai asked in a deep voice. When Zhu Kang heard this, he couldn't help but look at Yang Kai in surprise. Immediately, he seemed to have thought of something and said excitedly, Senior, are you not from the Jiang family? Chapter 2065. The Jiang family. Yang Kai coldly snorted, No, I'm here to look for someone. Senior is really not a member of the Jiang family. Zhu Kang's voice suddenly rose a little, as if he couldn't believe it. At this time, even the other cultivator looked at Yang Kai with joy. Their gloomy eyes bloomed with light, as if they had seen some hope in the darkness. Why would I lie to you? Yang Kai shouted impatiently. I believe in Senior. Zhu Kang no longer dared to question and shouted, Since Senior is not a member of the Jiang family, please save us from the sea of suffering. Senior, help. I beg you, please let us out. Suddenly there was a cry for help. Those cultivators who were shackled looked at Yang Kai with pleading eyes. Zhu Kang said, To tell you the truth, Senior, most of us are scattered cultivators who have no relatives or friends. There are also some people from small families who were caught by the Jiang family at different times to mine minerals for them. If we resist, we will be punished. Some of our brothers have even died. We can't bear the torture, it's unbearable. What minerals are you mining here? Yang Kai frowned. It's this, please have a look, Senior. Hearing this, Zhu Kang quickly took out something from the basket next to him and respectfully handed it to Yang Kai. Yang Kai took a look at it and suddenly exclaimed, Pure heart jade? He recognized this thing. It was an extremely rare jade that could help a cultivator to purify their mind. It had a very special effect. When a cultivator was in retreat to cultivate a secret art or to break through a realm, if he could wear such a thing on his body, it could offset the harm of heart demons to a great extent. If he wore it all year round, there would also be some unknown benefits. Because of this kind of jade was very expensive. A thumbnail-sized piece would cost 2,000 to 3,000 source crystals, and the piece Zhu Kang casually picked up was the size of a palm. It was worth at least 100,000 source crystals, not to mention that the basket was filled with more pure heart jade. This was a mine for pure heart jade. No wonder the Jiang family acted so sneakily. He didn't want to be discovered. If other forces knew about such a huge benefit, the Jiang family alone would not be able to resist. Even the city governor's mansion would definitely intervene to get a share of it. However, mining this kind of thing definitely required some labor, and the Jiang family didn't have enough labor, so they could only target others. Those below the Saint King realm had no relatives or friends. A cultivator with no background and no backing was the best candidate. Although Maplewood City wasn't considered big in the entire Southern Territory, and the overall level of cultivator wasn't high, people came and went every day like carps crossing the river. From time to time, a few cultivators below the Saint King realm would disappear. Most likely, no one would find out. Zhu Kang and the others were all caught and brought into the mine to work as coolies. Zhong Ruo she was obviously the same. In a short time, Yang Kai understood everything. Only now did he understand why the Jiang family was unwilling to reveal Zhong Ruoshi's whereabouts. Instead, when he went to the Jiang family to inquire, they pretended not to know anything. They were even unmoved when he saw the right conditions. It turned out that they didn't dare to reveal the secret of the mine. Understanding this, Yang Kai's eyes flashed with a cold light. Senior. Zhu Kang looked at Yang Kai cautiously, not knowing what he was thinking at the moment. Leave your things here. You can go. Yang Kai waved his hand. Huh? Zhu Kang was taken aback, seemingly at a loss. Yang Kai raised his hand, and suddenly, golden light danced in the mine as golden blood threads shot out. Accompanied by a series of cracking sounds, the bracelets and ankles that bound Zhu Kang and the others were all cut in half. I said you can go, or do you want to stay? Yang Kai glanced at Zhu Kang, and without waiting for him to say anything, he just waved his hand and collected all the pure heart jade mined from the ground into his space ring. Then, he flew forward without stopping. A moment later, a burst of cheers and excited shouts came from not far behind Yang Kai. Seeing that the bracelets and ankles were cut in half, How could the cultivator still have any doubts about Yang Kai's words? The impatient ones had already rushed to the exit. By the way, senior, don't go too deep. There's something strange in the innermost part. Ju Kang was also happy for a while, but then he seemed to remember something and hurriedly shouted at Yang Kai. But there was no trace of Yang Kai. He had already gone deep into the mine. Senior should have heard it, right? Ju Kang tilted his head and thought for a while, but then he was no longer in the mood to think about it. It had been 2 years since he was captured by the Jiang family. He thought that he would never be able to escape from this place and would eventually die here, but he didn't expect that today, he would receive help from a noble and would be able to see the light of day again. Excited, Ju Kang hurriedly ran out, shouting loudly as he ran. After a short while, the entire mine was in an uproar. Countless cultivator, who had been captured to mine minerals, rushed out to express their joy of regaining their freedom. In the depths of the mine, Yang Kai followed the little critter and ran forward. Along the way, he collected all the pure heart jade mined. At the same time, he used some means to cut off the bracelets and ankles of the slave miners. At the same time, somewhere in the deepest part of the mine, a slender figure was running inside. Along with her movements, a clattering sound was heard. It was the sound of the bracelets and ankles that were shackling her. Her small body was dressed in rags, her hair was disheveled, and her face was covered in darkness. It was impossible to see her original appearance. But from the way she kept looking back and her eyes were filled with panic, one could still distinguish a trace of Zhong Ruoshi's shadow. Surviving in this mine wasn't easy. Since being sent here a month ago, Zhong Ruoshi had been exposed to darkness and fear that she hadn't been exposed to for more than a decade. Not to mention the harsh requirements of the Jiang family, where they had to dig a sufficient amount of minerals every day, or they would be punished. The slave miners weren't people to be trifled with. After being captured and tortured here, the slave miners' temperaments had changed. When they suddenly saw a weak little girl, naturally, many of them were interested in her. Fortunately, Zhong Ruoshi was now a peak second-order Saint King. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to stand here. She would have been gnawed until not even her bones were left. A few blind men coveted Zhong Ruoshi's beauty and wanted to take liberties with her, but she taught them a lesson instead. After that, no one dared to trouble her anymore. In order to avoid similar trouble, she deliberately made herself look like neither a human nor a ghost. Sure enough, no one had any interest in her anymore, and she was able to live peacefully for a while. However, the daily work of mining ores was extremely difficult. The pure heart jade was embedded in the rock, and it took a lot of effort to extract it. In just a month, the little girl lost a few layers of skin on her hands and feet. Her body, which wasn't plump to begin with, became even thinner. Every day after work, she would go to sleep with tears streaming down her face while enduring the pain. When she woke up, she had to continue to endure the painful life. Zhong Ruoshi had been pampered and spoiled in the Zhong family since she was a child, and was regarded as the apple of her eye by the Zhong family's matriarch. She had never thought that there would be such a dark place in this world. She missed her great-grandmother, missed her grandmother, and missed everyone in the Zhong family. Every time, another face would flash in front of her eyes. It was Sir Yang, who had given her Zhong family a new lease on life. Sir Yang had gone out more than half a year ago and hadn't returned. She didn't have much contact with Sir Yang. Although she had been with him for a while, Sir Yang had never asked her for anything. He didn't even ask her to serve him. He just let her live peacefully in the cave mansion and cultivate every day. He even gave her a precious spirit pill. She could feel that Sir Yang was a good person who took good care of her. She cultivated diligently and didn't dare to slack off because Sir Yang had said that he might need her help in the future. She wanted to improve her cultivation as much as possible to repay Sir Yang's kindness. But now, sir, where are you? Zhong Ruoshi shouted in her heart. She stumbled through the mine tunnels, using her familiarity with the tunnels to avoid the pursuit behind her. At this most dangerous moment in her life, she could only think of one person. She hoped that this person would descend in front of her like a god, blocking the storm ahead and bringing her absolute safety. But she knew that this was impossible. This mine was so well hidden that no one would be able to find it. Cheap slave, you're dead meat. Try to escape. If I catch you, I'll let you taste all the torture in the world. A demon-like roar came from behind her. Zhongruo-Shi's tender body trembled violently. Her heart was filled with great fear. She felt as if her feet were filled with lead and she couldn't move. Zhongruo-Shi's shoes had long been lost in her escape, so her bare feet stepped into the cold and damp mine tunnel. Sharp stones pierced her feet, causing her to bleed. Numb to the pain, Zhongruo-Shi mechanically moved her feet towards a nearby tunnel. She fell and got up again. Suddenly, her vision blurred and she almost fainted. She bit the tip of her tongue fiercely and felt a tingling sensation. Zhongruo-Shi's mind suddenly cleared for a moment. After identifying the direction around her, she gritted her teeth and rushed in a certain direction. It was a place none of the mining slaves dared to approach. A few people had gone there to mine but never returned. Since then, no one dared to go there again. But now, that place of death had become her only hope of escape. In the silent mine tunnel, Zhongruo-Shi's rapid breathing could be heard. She could even clearly hear her violent heartbeat. In her chest, her heartbeat was like a war drum, as if it was about to burst out of her body. After running for a long time, Zhongruo-Shi suddenly stopped and looked ahead with a trace of despair on her face. It turned out to be a dead end in front of her. There was no way out at all. At this moment, the sound of footsteps came from behind her. Step by step, it was like the whisper of the Grim Reaper in her ear. Zhongruo-Shi turned around with a pale face. Her beautiful eyes were covered by dark clouds, overflowing with despair. There was no trace of light. Chapter 2066. Under Zhongruo-Shi's horrified gaze, the white-robed man from the Jiang family slowly revealed himself. But at this moment, this first-order origin king cultivator had a ferocious look on his face. In a situation where there was such a huge disparity in strength, anyone would be in a bad mood after being evaded by the other party for such a long time and almost being caught. Looking up at the dead end in front of him, the white-robed man let out a low chuckle. His mood suddenly became cheerful and he was no longer as anxious as before. Slowly, he approached Zhongruo-Shi step by step and said, "Cheap slut, why don't you run? Let's see where you can run to." Zhongruo-Shi's body clung to the cave wall, her beautiful eyes filled with horror as she looked at the figure approaching her bit by bit. She kept shaking her head, her tender body trembling. Not only did her delicate appearance not get any pity, it even stimulated the dark side of the white-robed man's heart that no one knew about, causing his expression to suddenly become excited. He couldn't help but stick out his tongue and lick the corner of his mouth, looking like he was about to eat something. The white-robed man looked at Zhongruo-Shi, his sharp eyes roaming over her petite but growing body. An obscene light flashed in his eyes as he let out a creepy laugh. Don't come over." Zhongruo-Shi shook her head vigorously, curling up her body into a ball as she begged bitterly. The white-robed man was unmoved. The short distance of a few dozen meters was quickly closed. When he got close, the white-robed man reached out and grabbed Zhongruo-Shi. At this moment, the weakness and pleading in Zhongruo-Shi's eyes disappeared. It was replaced by a kind of decisiveness and courage. Her saint chi fluctuated and a dagger-like weapon appeared in her hand at some point. She poured her strength into it and raised her hand, stabbing straight at the white-robed man's chest. If their strengths were equal, Zhongruo-Shi's attack would have had a good chance of succeeding. But the difference in cultivation between the two was too big, even if Zhongruo-Shi had grasped the perfect opportunity to attack. But the moment her saint chi fluctuated, the white-robed man had already activated his territory field. The power of this territory field was not something a second-order Saint King girl could resist. Therefore, the dagger was only able to reach 3 inches from the white-robed man's chest before it was restrained by an invisible force. No matter how hard Zhongruo-Shi tried, she was unable to move forward. Zhongruo-Shi was really desperate this time and looked up at the face so close to her. His face, which should have been considered handsome, now revealed a sinister smile and ridicule like that of a demon from hell. Then, the white-robed man stretched out his hand. Grabbing Zhongruo-Shi's hair, he slammed her head against the cave wall. Thud. Zhongruo-Shi only felt a shock in her head, an unbearable pain in her skull, and stars in her eyes. You've got guts. You actually dared to sneak attack me. The white-robed man laughed nastily. Very good. I wanted to give you a quick death. But since that's the case, don't blame me for being ruthless. As he spoke, he reached out again and pinched Zhong Ruoshi's neck, lifting her up directly and slowly exerting force with his fingers. Zhong Ruoshi let out a whimper as her feet moved wildly. She struggled hard, but no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't get rid of the other party's grip. Slowly, her breathing became irregular, her long eyelashes fluttered rapidly, and the color in her vision slowly faded. Through the hazy vision, Zhong Ruoshi seemed to see a figure rushing towards her from far away. With the help of the dim light in the mine, she found that it was Sir Yang, whom she had missed for a long time. Sir Yang's face was anxious at the moment, but for some reason, his facial features were distorted, as if he was extremely angry. Great-grandmother once said that before people died, they would have some inexplicable hallucinations. So, it seems that this is also my hallucination. Thinking so in her heart, Zhong Ruoshi's strength was quickly draining away, and she slowly closed her beautiful eyes. But at this moment, a dazzling golden light suddenly shot over, dispelling the darkness in the mine in a short time. The next moment, accompanied by a muffled groan, the big hand that was tightly pinching her neck suddenly loosened, and her body immediately fell to the ground. Before she landed, Zhong Ruoshi didn't know where the strength came from, but she clenched the dagger in her hand, lowered her body, and slammed forward. To Zhong Ruoshi's surprise, the dagger in her hand pierced through the white-robed man's chest smoothly. After pulling it out, blood splattered all over Zhong Ruoshi's face. The warm and sticky sensation made her hair stand on end. She was stunned for a moment, but she suppressed the fear in her heart, raised the dagger again, and fiercely stabbed at the white-robed man in front of her. *PU*****. With each stab, the dagger went all the way to the hilt, and blood spurted out from the wound, quickly drenching her in blood. It wasn't until the white-robed man opposite her widened his eyes and fell to the ground in disbelief that Zhong Ruoshi woke up from a dream. She stared at the corpse on the ground in a daze, and didn't recover for a long time. No matter how she thought about it, she couldn't figure out how such a powerful person could be casually stabbed to death by her, Ruoshi. Not far away, a low voice called out. Zhong Ruoshi's body trembled, and she looked up, only to find Yang Kai standing 10 meters away from her with a guilty look on his face, quietly looking at her. "Sir!" Zhong Ruoshi couldn't believe her eyes and cried out involuntarily. Fearing that the figure in front of her was an illusion, she hurriedly stretched out her hand and wiped her eyes, but she forgot that her hands were covered in blood at the moment. When she wiped her eyes, her vision turned blood red, and it looked particularly terrifying. It wasn't until this moment that she seemed to come back to her senses. Looking down at her blood-stained hands, she shivered and threw the dagger away, her tender body trembling violently. Seeing this, Yang Kai's figure flickered, and he arrived in front of Zhong Ruoshi. He reached out and grabbed her wrist, calling out in a low voice, "Ruoshi, are you okay?" Zhong Ruoshi slowly raised her head. Her originally clear and beautiful eyes were now covered in blood. After confirming that the person standing in front of her was indeed Yang Kai and not an illusion before her death, large tears overflowed from her eyes like pearls from a broken necklace, falling down continuously. Her grievances broke out, and her shoulders trembled as she choked out, "Sir. Ruoshi killed someone. Sir, save me." Yang Kai stared at her quietly, frowning slightly. He could naturally see that Zhong Ruoshi seemed to have suffered a great shock at this moment. This shock was not because she was being hunted down by the white-robed man, nor was it because she had narrowly escaped death. It was because someone had died at her hands. Although that person wasn't a good person, and had even tried to take her life, when she stabbed him full of holes, Zhong Ruoshi still couldn't bear it. After thinking about it carefully, Yang Kai somewhat understood. Zhong Ruoshi was now only 16 or 17 years old, a budding age. She had been pampered and spoiled in the Zhong family since she was a child. Although she cultivated, she had never fought a life-and-death battle with a person, let alone killed someone with her own hands. For a little girl like her, anyone's life was extremely precious. But now, a living person had died under her dagger. Naturally, she couldn't accept it in a short time. Yang Kai recalled the first time he killed someone, and his heart seemed to be extremely uneasy. This uneasiness and panic lasted for a long time before it gradually disappeared. Later, after killing many people, he didn't feel anything at all. But Zhong Ruoxi was different. The white-robed man should be the first person to die at her hand. Thinking of this, Yang Kai sighed and reached out to pull Zhong Ruoxi into his arms. He patted her shoulder and comforted her gently. You didn't kill that person. He died at my hands. When you stabbed him with your dagger, he was already dead. Hearing this, Zhong Ruoxi's trembling tender body calmed down a lot. She looked up at Yang Kai and asked timidly, really? It's true. Look. As Yang Kai spoke, he stretched out his hand and a golden blood thread suddenly shot out from the corpse on the ground and wrapped around his fingertip. This is what I used to kill him. I didn't kill him. Zhong Ruoxi stared at the golden blood thread in a daze. The panic in her beautiful eyes gradually dissipated and was replaced by a relieved expression. You didn't kill him. Sleep well. When you wake up, everything will be fine. Yang Kai comforted her softly while pushing his source qi slightly and pouring it into Zhong Ruoxi's body to soothe the trembling blood in her body. Perhaps because the burden in her heart had been lifted, or perhaps because she was too tired, Zhong Ruoxi really leaned into Yang Kai's arms and closed her beautiful eyes, breathing softly. After seeing that she had really fallen asleep, Yang Kai sighed softly and picked her up. Shua shua shua. Not far away, the sound of something breaking through the air rang out. Yang Kai narrowed his eyes and released his divine sense to investigate. After discovering that it was Mo Xiaoqi, he waited quietly. After a short while, Mo Xiaoqi appeared not far in front of Yang Kai. The heaven-escaping bat let out a squeak and flew to Mo Xiaoqi's shoulder. Mo Xiaoqi looked at Yang Kai, then at the bloody corpse on the ground, then at Zhong Ruoxi in Yang Kai's arms and asked, "Is this Sister Ruoxi?" Yang Kai nodded. "Is she okay? I came just in time." "She's fine, she just fell asleep because she was too tired." "It's good that she's fine." Mo Xiaoqi patted her towering chest and breathed a sigh of relief. But soon, she gnashed her teeth. Those Jiang family people are really hateful. Big brother Yang, I've already inquired about the situation here. They actually dared to kidnap and force the scattered cultivator to secretly mine minerals for them. They are simply bastards. I know a thing or two about this matter. A cold light flashed in Yang Kai's eyes as his expression turned cold. He sneered in a low voice, "The Jiang family really wants to silence us. Just you wait." Chapter 2067. Zhong Ruoxi's experience really made Yang Kai angry out of shame. After all, he was now a Dao Source Realm Master, but because of a moment of carelessness, he failed to take care of a little girl and was caught here to mine. He went to the Jiang family to inquire about the situation, but the Jiang family's higher-ups lied to him. Not only that, the Jiang family even wanted to kill him to silence him. How could Yang Kai tolerate this? He'd already secretly decided that once he left this place, he would go to the Jiang clan and turn the Jiang clan upside down, causing chaos. What about the Jiang family members guarding the entrance? A cold light flashed in Yang Kai's eyes as he asked in a deep voice. "They're still over there." Mo Xiaoqi replied, "And it's not just the two Jiang family members here. I met some on the way here and knocked them out. As for those who were caught here, they have already been sent out through the space array." Yang Kai nodded lightly. "After they leave, I think the Jiang family's matter can no longer be hidden. It's also convenient for me to go to the Jiang family and make a scene. This way, the city lord's mansion won't be able to intervene." "Then, are we going back now?" Mo Xiaoqi asked. Yang Kai nodded. After the two finished their discussion, they prepared to return to Maplewood City. But at that moment, a sudden change occurred. An earth-shaking movement came from under their feet, causing Mo Xiaoqi and Yang Kai's expressions to change. At the same time, a cracking sound came from not far away. Yang Kai frowned. He stared in the direction of the sound. He found that the cliff in front of him was filled with blood-red lines. These lines looked very complicated and mysterious, as if they were some kind of seal. The lines kept wriggling, and as they wriggled, more and more blood was sucked away. Only then did Yang Kai discover that the blood red was actually the color of blood. And the source was the corpse of the Jiang family's white-robed cultivator that had fallen on the ground before. The seal patterns on the precipice were actually crazily devouring the blood flowing out of the white-robed cultivator. As the blood flowed in, the blood-red seal patterns wriggled faster and faster. What is this? Yang Kai's face changed dramatically as he stared in front of him in surprise. Mo Xiaoqi's expression also suddenly became dignified as she stared fixedly at the seal, her brow furrowed, seemingly unable to recognize what kind of seal it was. At this moment, the seal seemed to have devoured enough blood. The veined patterns converged at the center of the cliff in a flash, forming a hideous human face. The face opened its mouth wide, and a pitch-black aura suddenly gushed out from the inside of the cliff. Yang Kai narrowed his eyes and instinctively felt that something was wrong. He hurriedly pulled Mo Xiaoqi. He retreated backward. The pitch-black aura continued to surge out of the seal and quickly filled the mine tunnel. Yang Kai could clearly feel the violent and bloody aura from the black aura. There was also another smell that he was familiar with. The black qi quickly split up and slithered around like pitch-black spiritual snakes. One of the black aura drilled into the mouth and nose of the dead white-robed man on the ground and quickly disappeared. But in the next moment, something happened that left Kai Yang dumbfounded. The white-robed man, whose upper body was riddled with holes, suddenly opened his eyes. But at this moment, his eyeballs were not black and white, but a strange pitch-black color. It looked extremely terrifying. At the same time, pitch-black patterns suddenly appeared on the white-robed man's face, arms, and exposed skin. Demon crests! Yang Kai exclaimed in surprise. He was all too familiar with these patterns. Back in Tongshen realm, the clansmen of the ancient demon clan he saved had all cultivated this secret technique, which allowed them to brand their bodies with different demon crests. When he himself used the secret technique to become the demon race, the changes on his body were very similar to this scene. Demonic qi. Mo Xiaoqi seemed to have noticed something at the same time as Yang Kai exclaimed. As soon as the two's voices fell, the white-robed man stood up and fixed his dark eyes on Yang Kai. Immediately after, he let out a fierce roar and pounced towards Yang Kai with a ferocious expression, as if he was not afraid of death. Yang Kai coldly snorted, holding Zhongruo Shi in one hand and flicking his fingers with the other, shooting out a series of golden blood threads. With a sizzling sound, the sharp golden blood threads pierced through the white-robed man and were directly cut into several pieces by Yang Kai. The pieces scattered on the ground, but not a single drop of blood flowed out. However, Yang Kai did not have the slightest joy after succeeding. Instead, he frowned. This was because he could feel that after the white-robed man had been demonized, his strength had increased by quite a bit. Although he was still able to deal with him in a single move, the white-robed man was undoubtedly much stronger than when he was alive. Asterisk Kai 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 Kai. Asterisk at this moment, the pitch-black aura that filled the mine turned into pitch-black spirit snakes and shot madly towards Yang Kai and Mo Xiaoqi, like cats that had smelled fish. Not good, run. Yang Kai's face changed drastically. At the same time, he stretched out his hand and shouted in a low voice, "Exile." Under the power of space principles, a black hole about the size of a round table took shape leisurely. Inside the black hole was nothingness, only chaos. The pitch-black spirit snakes all rushed in and disappeared without a trace. But there were still more pitch-black spirit snakes that pounced over one after another. And from the mouth of the face on the cliff, even more pitch-black aura gushed out. The space secret technique only lasted for 3 breaths of time before it shattered, allowing the black snake-like existences to break through Yang Kai's blockade and follow him at an extremely fast speed. Yang Kai did not need to look back to know that the situation behind them was not good. He had no time to deal with those strange things. Pushing his source qi, he wrapped Mo Xiaoqi up and rushed towards the entrance as if his life depended on it. After going around in circles, the two soon arrived at the location where they were previously teleported. There, the 2 Jiang family origin King Realm cultivator were still lying on the ground with pale faces, watching Yang Kai and Mo Xiaoqi step into the space array. One of them opened his mouth, as if he wanted to say something, but no words came out. They did not know what method Mo Xiaoqi used to imprison them in place. Big Brother Yang, they're coming. Mo Xiaoqi looked back and saw that the countless pitch-black spirit snakes were less than 300 meters away from them. Her pretty face turned pale in an instant. Yang Kai's face darkened as he hurriedly poured his space force into the array. In the next moment, the array hummed and released a burst of light. When the light dissipated, the two had disappeared. The pitch-black spirit snakes rushed to the array and pounced on empty air. However, these strange things wrapped around the two Jiang family origin King Realm cultivator in a single sweep. Screams immediately rang out from the black chi. It sounded extremely tragic, as if they had suffered some unimaginable torture. A moment later, the screams came to an abrupt end as the two stood up from the ground. Although their appearances hadn't changed, their auras were very different from before. Their entire bodies were emitting an incomparably ruthless and dark aura. They were wrapped in black energy, and demonic patterns appeared on their cheeks and arms. Even their eyes had turned pure black. The two of them looked at each other and grinned hideously. One of them even howled wildly at the sky. His howl was filled with endless joy and excitement. It was as if he had been imprisoned for thousands of years and was finally able to break free. The two of them were not the only cultivator who had encountered this. In the mine, many of the Jiang family cultivator who had been knocked unconscious by Mo Xiaoqi had also encountered the same thing. There were also some slave miners who did not manage to escape the mine in time. Once they were entangled by the pitch-black aura, their auras changed drastically in a short time. They seemed to have lost their original sentience. Soon, the entire mine was filled with the pitch-black aura. In the cave of the barren mountain, a light flashed and Yang Kai and Mo Xiaoqi appeared on the space array with lingering fear. Next to the array, the Jiang family cultivator who had been knocked unconscious by Yang Kai had strangely disappeared. Seeing this, Yang Kai could not help but frown. He swept out with his divine sense and immediately showed a look of surprise. "Big brother Yang, what's wrong?" Mo Xiaoqi looked at him in surprise. "There are many people outside welcoming us." Yang Kai sneered. Mo Xiaoqi frowned slightly. She released her divine sense and immediately noticed something. "Let's go out and take a look." Yang Kai called out to her and took the lead to fly out of the cave without fear. He stood in mid-air. He glanced around and saw that he was surrounded by cultivators. Moreover, all of their faces were extremely familiar. They were all members of the Jiang family that he had just met. He did not know when the news had been leaked. The Jiang family had actually sent all their experts to this place. Not far away, the Jiang family's patriarch, Jiang Lin, and many higher-ups were looking at Yang Kai coldly. They seemed very unhappy. In front of Jiang Lin, there was an old man in a black robe. He stood there with his hands behind his back. He did not reveal any aura from his body. He looked just like an ordinary person, but there was an indescribable majesty lingering around him. When some of the Jiang family cultivators looked at this old man, their eyes were full of awe. Even Jiang Lin was standing behind this old man with an extremely respectful look. Yang Kai's expression changed. He glanced at the old man and immediately knew that this person should be the Jiang family's Dao Source Realm Master, the Jiang family's old ancestor, Jiang Taisheng. After all, there were not many Dao Source Realm Masters in Maplewood City. However, every Dao Source Realm Master was widely known by the cultivator in Maplewood City. At this moment, Jiang Taisheng was looking at Yang Kai indifferently. His gaze only swept over Zhong Ruoshi in his arms for a moment before he looked away. It was as if no one was worthy of his attention. Yang Kai chuckled lightly, a playful smile appearing on his face. Chapter 2068. Alchemist Yang. Jiang Lin suddenly stood up and stared coldly at Yang Kai, his tone extremely unfriendly. "I didn't expect you to have some skill, actually being able to find this place. This Jiang has underestimated you." Yang Kai coldly snorted, "If you don't want others to know, don't do it in the first place." A cold light flashed in Jiang Lin's eyes as his expression turned furious. He turned his head and glanced at Jiang Taisheng, but seeing the latter's calm expression, he immediately took a deep breath and shouted, "Alchemist Yang, this Jiang sees that you are also a talent and does not want to kill you. If you can sign this soul contract in front of my Jiang family, we may spare your life." As he spoke, He suddenly took out a simple and unadorned animal skin parchment. Yang Kai fixed his eyes on it and found that it was very similar to the one Kang Sai Ran took out. Not only was it similar in shape and size, but even the aura it exuded was almost identical. Yang Kai immediately understood that this was a real soul contract, something from the Serene Soul Palace. Soul contracts were developed by one of the 10 Great Emperors, the Serene Soul Great Emperors, and only the people of the Serene Soul Palace knew how to make them. Once a cultivator branded their own soul brand or life mark on a soul contract, this soul contract would exert a magical effect, binding the cultivator to fulfill the terms of the contract. If the cultivator violated the contract, they would suffer the pain of having their soul devoured and their soul destroyed. In order to prevent Yang Kai from leaking the source condensing pill recipe, Kang Sai Ran had no choice but to use a soul contract, which made his heart ache for many days. After all, this thing was extremely precious, and each one was worth a lot of money. He didn't know where the Jiang family obtained one, but they actually took it out at this moment. A soul contract. Yang Kai showed a faint smile. Patriarch Jiang is so generous. This thing is very precious. Don't you think it is a waste to use it on this Yang? Jiang Lin said expressionlessly, for alchemist Yang, what is a soul contract? Yang Kai looked at him calmly and said, but I want to know what is written on this soul contract. Does alchemist Yang not know what is written? Jiang Lin smiled slightly. It is nothing more than hoping that alchemist Yang will become a member of my Jiang family in the future and refine spirit pills for my Jiang family. I'm afraid I can't agree to this. Yang Kai shook his head slowly. Jiang Lin's face. Yang Kai, don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Today, you have to sign this soul contract whether you want to or not, it's not up to you. Jiang Lin's is 2. And Jiang Lin, Yang, Jiang and the others, Jiang. Why would that Jiang T? And Jiang and Jiang A. To do. 2. Jiang T. TSTTs. T of TTTTS as long as Yang Kai gave in. The Jiang family would not only gain an origin king-grade alchemist, but they also wouldn't have to worry about him leaking the secret of the mine. Hearing Jiang Lin's shameless boasting, Yang Kai couldn't help but laugh. What a joke. My hands and feet grow on my body. I can do whatever I want. What can your Jiang family do to me? Jiang Lin was furious. Just as he was about to speak, Jiang Tai Sheng, who had been silent all this time, suddenly opened his eyes. He glanced at Yang Kai indifferently and raised his hand to stop Jiang Lin from speaking. He said indifferently, young man, you think you have some ability and don't know how high the heavens are and how deep the earth is. Today, this old master came here personally to give you a lot of face. I heard from them that you are an origin king-grade alchemist, and the quality of the source condensing pills you refine is also extraordinary. This old master cherishes talents. I don't want to do anything to you. If you obediently brand your S on this soul contract, this old master will pretend that nothing happened today. As for the little girl in your arms and the companion beside you, this old master can spare their lives, but the premise is that they must marry into my Jiang family as concubine. What? You want me to marry into your Jiang family as a concubine? Before Yang Kai could say anything, Mo Xiaoqi, who had been standing to the side with an indifferent expression as if she was watching a good show, jumped up and glared at Jiang Tai Sheng with a face full of shame and anger. She shouted, "You old thing, you don't have any self-respect at all. How could you say such shameless words? Presumptuous. How dare you?" A group of Jiang family cultivators shouted at Mo Xiaoqi with angry expressions, as if Mo Xiaoqi had said something she shouldn't have. Yang Kai chuckled. He held Zhong Ruoxi in his arms with one hand and pretended to pick his ear with the other. He tilted his head and asked Mo Xiaoqi, "Xiaoqi, why do I hear a mad dog barking?" "Oh." Mo Xiaoqi glanced at him and nodded seriously. "Yeah, and its barking is very unpleasant to hear." Hearing this, Jiang Tai Sheng narrowed his eyes and a cold light flashed in them. He said in a deep voice, "Very good, these two juniors are really bold. This old master hasn't heard anyone speak to me like this for many years. There is a path to heaven, but you don't want to take it. Why are you putting on an act over there? What are you trying to do?" Yang Kai didn't wait for him to finish and interrupted him impatiently. Do you think you're so great just because you're a Dao Source Realm cultivator? As soon as he said this, Yang Kai's figure suddenly blurred. Before the Jiang family members could react, Yang Kai had strangely appeared not far in front of Jiang Lin. Huh! Jiang Lin was shocked and his body fell back involuntarily. Before he could do anything else, Yang Kai had already stretched out his hand towards him. Jiang Lin was shocked. Without thinking, he pushed the source qi in his body, clenched his fists, and punched forward fiercely. Energy gathered in the void as a tiger's roar resounded. A gigantic phantom of a tiger appeared in a flash and opened its bloody mouth to bite forward. However, this attack hit nothing but air. Kai Yang, who was in front of him, had disappeared at some unknown time. When Jiang Lin looked around in surprise, he found that Yang Kai had returned to his original place, as if he had never moved. In an instant, cold sweat poured down Jiang Lin's forehead. The Jiang family members also turned pale. Xiao Qi, see if this is real. Yang Kai handed something to Mo Xiao Qi. Mo Xiao Qi took it and looked at it carefully. My soul contract. Only then did Jiang Lin realize that the soul contract he had been holding in his hand had been snatched away by Yang Kai at some point. He stared at his empty hands in amazement, then raised his head and looked not far ahead. His heart sank to the bottom. Dao Source Realm. Jiang Tai Sheng narrowed his eyes and shouted. Before, Yang Kai did not use any power, so he did not carefully investigate Yang Kai's strength. He only thought that Yang Kai's cultivation was at the Origin King realm. But now, as soon as Yang Kai made a move, Jiang Tai Sheng saw the clues. After discovering this, Jiang Tai Sheng's face could not help but turn ugly. After all, he was just a cultivator from the First Order Dao Source realm. If Yang Kai's cultivation was the same as his, he would not have any advantage at all. This was completely different from what he had imagined before. He thought that if he personally went out to deal with these two juniors, it would be a piece of cake. And from beginning to end, he did not even look at Yang Kai and Mo Xiao Qi. But only now did he know that he was wrong, very wrong. As a cultivator from the First Order Dao Source realm, Yang Kai already had the qualifications to talk to him as an equal. And judging from the speed at which he attacked just now, if he wanted to kill the other members of the Jiang family, he would have already succeeded. Yes, Big Brother Yang, this is indeed a soul contract from the Serene Soul Palace. This is a good thing. Keep it well, it may be useful in the future. After checking it, Mo Xiao Qi returned the soul contract to Yang Kai. Yang Kai took it back and stuffed it into his space ring indifferently. This old master was rude. It turns out that Your Excellency is also a Dao Source Realm cultivator. No wonder you are so confident. Jiang Tai Sheng's expression was no longer as relaxed as before. Instead, there was a dignified look on his face as the corners of his mouth twitched slightly. Yang Kai sneered and said, "You change your face quite quickly. How shameless." Mo Xiao Qi also spat from the side. Jiang Tai Sheng's behavior was like a completely different person, which really made Mo Xiao Qi look down on him. Jiang Tai Sheng coldly snorted and said, "But even if Your Excellency is a Dao Source Realm cultivator, you must give this old master an explanation for what happened today. Otherwise, Your Excellency can forget about leaving so easily." Explanation? Yang Kai's face turned cold as he said in a cold voice, "Is this what your Jiang family should give me, or should I give it to your Jiang family? This Yang's friend was captured by you for no reason and was tortured here." When Yang Kai went to the Jiang family to inquire about information, not only did you hide it, you even wanted to silence him. If I had not come in time, how could my friend still be alive? You still want an explanation? This. Jiang Tai Sheng was at a loss for words. He did not expect Yang Kai's words to be so sharp. For a moment, he did not know how to answer. Alchemist Yang. As the patriarch of the Jiang family, Jiang Lin had no choice but to stand up at this moment. He cupped his fists and said, "Alchemist Yang, please calm down. This is a complete misunderstanding." He had just been bullied by Yang Kai and had walked through the gates of hell. Now, he no longer dared to look down on Yang Kai. His tone was also not as arrogant as before. Instead, he smiled and said bitterly, This is really a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? Yang Kai looked at him coldly, the corners of his mouth rising slightly. Although he was smiling, there was not the slightest trace of a smile on his face. Instead, it looked even more bone-chilling. You captured my woman and now you say it's a misunderstanding? Patriarch Jiang, do you think I am a 3-year-old child? Or are you a 3-year-old child? Jiang Lin wore a worried expression as he said, Alchemist Yang, we didn't know this little girl was one of your people. If we had known earlier, we would have treated her as a guest of honor. Why would we have brought her to the mine? Now that she is safe and sound, why don't we end today's matter here? The sole contract will be my Jiang family's apology. In addition, in a few days, my Jiang family will send another gift to Alchemist Yang's residence. Chapter 2069. Heh, now you want to bribe me? Yang Kai sneered, can you be any more shameless? Jiang Lin's face stiffened. He was extremely annoyed, but due to the gap in cultivation, he didn't dare to get angry. However, Jiang Taisheng was burning with rage. He shouted, Junior, my Jiang family has already given you enough face. Don't go too far. I'm going too far. Are you going to bite me? Yang Kai looked at him with disdain. You're pissing this old master off. Jiang Taisheng only felt the blood and qi in his chest churning. He almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Furious, he glared at Yang Kai and shouted, Boy, even if you are from the First Order Dao Source realm, this old master will have to experience your means today. What's the point of talking so much? Let's fight. Yang Kai shouted angrily as the source qi in his body surged wildly. This old master has been in the Dao Source realm for more than 100 years. How can a little brat like you compare to me? Jiang Taisheng shouted coldly with a complacent look. You haven't broken through to the next level after 100 years. Isn't your aptitude too bad, old thing? Yang Kai said disdainfully. Jiang Taisheng was furious. The source qi in his body also surged. He didn't want to say anything more to Yang Kai, so he wouldn't be angered to death. With a tap of his foot, he suddenly disappeared from where he was standing. A soft thud could be heard coming from where he was just standing. Obviously, it was because he was too fast, causing the air to explode. In the next moment, he appeared in front of Yang Kai like a ghost and shouted with a gloomy face, This old master will let you experience the strength of a century-old Dao Source Realm master. While speaking, he floated lightly. He seemed to be very relaxed as he pushed his palm towards Yang Kai. Principal strength lingered in that palm. Before it was pushed out, Yang Kai was already surrounded by strong winds, whistling sounds. Mo Xiaoqi, who was standing not far from Yang Kai, turned slightly pale. Her chest rose and fell violently, as if she couldn't breathe. Mo Xiaoqi's origins were mysterious. His background was extraordinary, and his strength was also extraordinary. However, he had yet to reach the level of the Dao Source realm, so when faced with the pressure of Jiang Taisheng's principal strength, he immediately had a difficult expression on his face. However, she was also a person who had seen the world, so she wouldn't be restrained by some principal strength. She let out a shout and urged the power in her body to forcibly break free from the oppression of the principal strength. With a flash, he was already far away. But at this moment, in front of Jiang Taisheng's palm, a clear and misty energy palm leisurely took shape, and pushed towards Yang Kai with a momentum that could topple mountains and overturn seas. A gust of wind blew past. Yang Kai's robe fluttered in the wind. Zhong Ruoshi's hair fluttered in his arms. How dare you show off your petty trick? Yang Kai snorted coldly. Without waiting for the other party's power of law to press down on him, he also mobilized the law of space to form a tight invisible barrier around himself, blocking the suppression of the other party's law. In the next moment, he raised his hand. Similarly, a huge energy palm formed in front of him and slapped towards Jiang Taisheng. The two energy palms were like giant objects that could hold up the sky, and in a breath's time, they collided. Accompanied by a loud bang, the world energy suddenly became chaotic, and shattered principal strength sputtered in the void. It burst out in all directions. A faint sneer hung on Yang Kai's face, but Jiang Taisheng's pupils shrank, and a trace of horror appeared on his old face as he exclaimed in a low voice, "How can this be?" As soon as he said this, his misty giant palm suddenly collapsed, while Yang Kai's palm continued to press down on him. Jiang Taisheng's face changed drastically. He knew that the biggest reason for this situation was that the source qi in the other party's body was more vigorous and pure than his own. After all, this kind of killing move was formed by directly urging the source qi in the body. It was a competition of the quality and quantity of source qi. When he saw that Yang Kai was so young, he thought that he had just broken through to the Tao source realm, and that his cultivation might not have stabilized yet. He thought that Yang Kai would definitely not be able to compare with him, a veteran master who had been immersed in the Tao source realm for hundreds of years. However, after this exchange, he discovered that he was wrong. Seeing that giant palm slapping down, how could Jiang Taisheng dare to continue standing in his original place? He hurriedly twisted his body to avoid it, and directly fled into the void a few dozen meters away, while looking at Yang Kai with an ugly expression. However, Yang Kai did not take advantage of this opportunity to pursue him. Instead, he still stood there, looking at Jiang Taisheng with a mocking expression. That mocking smile was like a sharp thorn that pierced into his heart, causing him to feel uncomfortable all over. "Damn it!" Jiang Taisheng muttered in a low voice. Under the gazes of so many people from the Jiang family, he could no longer maintain his old face. Gritting his teeth, he stretched out his hand and grasped the void, causing a tiger-headed broadsword to suddenly appear in his hand. That broadsword was impressively a Tao source-grade artifact. Its body was thick and heavy, and was engraved with many mysterious patterns. At its hilt was a lifelike tiger head, giving it an extraordinary appearance. Obviously, because his source qi was inferior to Yang Kai's, he wanted to rely on the might of this artifact. Furthermore, this artifact was the Jiang family's most treasured artifact. As a Tao source-grade artifact, only he could activate it, so it had always been in his possession. Madly pouring his source qi into the broadsword, Jiang Taisheng stared at Yang Kai with a ferocious expression, as if he wanted to kill him. Accompanied by an earth-shaking tiger roar, the phantom of a tiger suddenly rushed out from the broadsword. As Jiang Taisheng poured his source qi into the broadsword, the phantom of the tiger actually became more and more solid. After a while, it had turned into a real monster beast. Its body was emitting the aura of an 11th-order monster beast. The giant tiger was 50 to 60 feet long, and it roared towards the sky with an extraordinary aura. Jiang Taisheng raised the artifact in his hand high and slashed down fiercely, shouting, "Go!" The giant tiger immediately took a step forward, its scarlet eyes staring at Yang Kai as it rushed towards him like a bolt of lightning. Seeing this, Yang Kai coldly snorted and did not dodge. He did not even have the thought of summoning his artifact and just rushed towards the giant tiger. Arrogant! Seeing this, Jiang Taisheng shouted and followed closely behind the giant tiger. Holding the broadsword, he shot forward, his body wrapped in a dazzling stream of light. After a short while, the giant tiger arrived in front of Yang Kai and bit towards him, its fangs clearly visible. Yang Kai hugged Zhong Ruo tightly with one hand and clenched his other hand into a fist. In a blur, countless fist shadows appeared and bombarded the giant tiger like a storm. Peng peng peng. Strong and rhythmic sounds rang out as the giant tiger whimpered like a living creature. Its body twisted and deformed, and in less than 3 breaths, it suddenly collapsed. Seeing this, the faces of the Jiang family members who were nervously watching the battle between the Tao Source Realm Masters suddenly turned gloomy. But in the next moment, Jiang Taisheng, who was wrapped in a saber light, rushed in front of Yang Kai. The saber light suddenly grew bigger, turning into a giant blade more than 100 feet long, and slashed towards Yang Kai. With a twist of his body, Kai Yang avoided this terrifying attack. The saber light slashed the ground, immediately creating a gully more than 5 feet deep. Dirt and sand flew everywhere for a while. Before Jiang Taisheng could do anything else, Yang Kai fiercely punched the saber light. A crisp sound rang out, accompanied by a muffled groan. Jiang Taisheng's figure suddenly appeared more than 100 feet away, but at this moment, his face was extremely ugly as he held the saber in front of him with both hands. A vague dent appeared on the saber. Looking at the shape, it seemed to have been made by a fist. "The strength of your body." Jiang Taisheng looked at Yang Kai in disbelief, his eyes trembling violently. The other party had just beaten his Dao source-grade artifact to this extent with just a single punch. Even its spirituality seemed to have been damaged. How terrifying was the body of such a person? Was he still human? Just as he was in a daze, Yang Kai had already flicked his 5 fingers with a fierce look on his face. A series of black moon blades shot out like a shower. Jiang Taisheng's face changed drastically as he said in horror, "Space Force?" After realizing that the pitch-black crescent blades were all condensed from space energy, how could he dare to stay where he was? He quickly used his means to avoid them. However, the crescent blade was like a maggot that followed closely behind him. Moreover, its speed was extremely fast, causing him to be somewhat exhausted from running. "Ha ha ha ha, Jiang family old dog, why are you running? Do you think you can escape? If I don't turn your Jiang family upside down today, this matter won't be over." Yang Kai laughed and shouted, looking extremely relaxed. On the other side, the faces of the Jiang family's cultivator changed drastically when they saw this. The old ancestor that they relied on was running around like a stray dog after exchanging 2 moves with Yang Kai. Not only did he not have a chance to attack, he could not even talk back. This made them immediately realize that they were in big trouble this time. "Patriarch," a Jiang family elder said in a deep voice, "let's attack together and help the old ancestor." "Yeah." The others also echoed. The old ancestor seems to be no match for this person. Jiang Lin's face turned solemn as he looked at the battlefield not far away. Then, he looked to the other side and said coldly, "Instead of taking the risk to help the old ancestor, it's better to deal with her." Everyone was stunned. Following Jiang Lin's gaze, they saw Mo Xiaoqi standing in place with an idle look on her face. She was leisurely paying attention to the battlefield, as if she was not worried about Yang Kai's safety at all. That's right. That Yang Kai appeared together with this woman, so their relationship is definitely not shallow. As long as we can capture her, do you think Yang Kai won't submit? Jiang Chu, his eyes lit up as his gaze swept over Mo Xiaoqi's beautiful figure. However, when he saw the crescent-shaped birthmark on Xiaoqi's face, he could not help but sigh, as if he was lamenting about something. The Jiang family group exchanged glances for a moment before all of them suddenly swarmed towards Mo Xiaoqi. In the blink of an eye, more than a dozen Origin King Realm Masters surrounded Mo Xiaoqi, leaving no gaps. "What are you doing?" Mo Xiaoqi furrowed her brow and looked around in displeasure. "Heh heh heh." Jiang Chu, he chuckled in a low voice, "Girl, don't you know what we're doing? If you know what's good for you, you'd better cooperate obediently, lest we accidentally hurt you." "That wouldn't be good." Chapter 2070. Upon hearing this, Mo Xiaoqi immediately understood. Looking at the Jiang family group in disdain, she asked, "You want to bully me with numbers?" Jiang Lin's old face turned embarrassed as he coughed lightly. "We had no choice, please don't blame us, Miss Patriarch. Why are you wasting words with her? Just attack her together. If she dares to resist, don't blame us for being ruthless," a Jiang family elder shouted. "You're too shameless. I'm just a little girl," Mo Xiaoqi shouted angrily. "On the battlefield, there's no need to differentiate between little girls and big girls. If you want to blame someone, blame that Yang Kai." Jiang Chu, he seemed to have a grudge against Yang Kai and transferred his twisted thoughts to Mo Xiaoqi, causing him to be impolite to her. "Do you really want to attack me?" Mo Xiaoqi looked angry as she gnashed her teeth at Jiang Chu. "Ha, do you think this young master is joking with you?" Jiang Chu, he sneered. Saying so, with a flip of his wrist, an Origin King-grade artifact sword suddenly appeared in his hand. With a shake of the sword, he stabbed it towards Mo Xiaoqi. In an instant, the sword hummed as source chi appeared. Wherever the sword pointed, sword flowers bloomed, seemingly wanting to envelop Mo Xiaoqi. A playful expression appeared on Mo Xiaoqi's pretty face, as she stood in place with no intention of dodging. Instead, she shot a glare at Jiang Chu, before calmly summoning an item and pouring her source chi into it. With a puff, the artifact summoned by Mo Xiaoqi suddenly grew larger and directly enveloped her, leaving no gap between her and Yang Kai. This artifact was in the shape of a sphere and was light blue in color. Its surface was sparkling. It was like a water curtain, clear and as thin as a cicada's wing. From the outside, Mo Xiaoqi looked like she was wrapped in a water ball at this moment. This artifact was none other than the weak water bead that Mo Xiaoqi had used in Clear Jade Mountain. The weak water bead could even imprison a young Luan Feng, which showed how powerful it was. Mo Xiaoqi was currently using the weak water bead, which was originally used for imprisonment. Obviously, she was using it as a defensive artifact. The effect was obviously not bad. The moment this artifact appeared, Jiang Lin's eyes narrowed as he shouted in a low voice, "A Dao Source grade artifact." As soon as he said that, the gazes of many elders and deacons of the Jiang family became heated. Clang! Jiang Chu, his long sword, made contact with the water screen. However, unexpectedly, his attack did not have the slightest bit of effect. The only thing it managed to do was cause the water screen, which looked like it could be easily broken, to cave in a tiny bit, before fiercely rebounding back. Not only that, even the power behind the attack seemed to have been completely reflected back onto Jiang Chu He. This outstanding talent of the Jiang family's new generation was caught off guard. Unexpectedly, he couldn't completely dissolve it. He couldn't help but let out a strange cry and staggered back a few steps. His face slightly paled, and his expression became aghast. Fortunately, he did not use his full strength just now. Otherwise, he would have been seriously injured. "I'm afraid this little girl has an extraordinary background. Everyone, there is no need to worry. Let's end this quickly." Jiang Lin's eyes drooped as he shouted in a low voice. If she was an ordinary Origin King, how could she bring out a Dao Source grade artifact right off the bat? Furthermore, it was a defensive artifact. One had to know that there were so many Origin Kings in the Jiang family, yet none of them had a Dao Source grade artifact of their own. Only those with extraordinary backgrounds and great backgrounds would be able to obtain one or two Dao Source grade artifacts as a reward from their elders. Previously, when Jiang Chu He took action, Jiang Lin was still somewhat conceited. He wasn't willing to take action together, as he didn't want others to say that he was bullying the weak. However, now that the situation had taken a turn for the worse, how could he hesitate? As soon as he said that, he formed a seal with his hand and pointed forward. With a soft poochy sound, a stream of light shot out from his fingertip, instantly smashing against the water screen of the weak water bead. At the same time, the other Jiang family elders and deacons also took action. In an instant, the brilliance of various martial skills and artifacts blossomed, all of them shooting towards Mo Xiaoqi. However, all the attacks were in vain. The weak water bead wrapped around Mo Xiaoqi was constantly changing its shape, dissolving all the attacks one by one, and miraculously bouncing them back. Seeing this scene, the group of Jiang family Origin King realm cultivators' complexion changed drastically, and they hurriedly dodged. Mo Xiaoqi hid behind the water screen of the weak water bead, her pretty face pulled a long face, as if a layer of frost could be scraped off from it. Gritting her teeth, she shouted, "You guys are really bullying me with your numbers. Shameless. I'll fight it out with you." Like a child who had been bullied, Xiaoqi flipped out. As soon as she finished speaking, she stretched out her hand and patted the small cloth bags hanging from her waist. These small cloth bags were bulging, and no one knew what was inside. Even if the Jiang family people had discovered it before, they wouldn't have cared. However, at this moment, a scene that made their eyes pop out appeared. Following Mo Xiaoqi's actions, one after another, monster beasts of different shapes and sizes suddenly rushed out of those cloth bags like gods descending to the mortal world. The first to appear was the majestic silver lion tiger beast with a body length of more than 60 to 70 feet. As soon as this beast appeared, it roared towards the sky and opened its bloody mouth, revealing its fangs, which frightened the Jiang family people and made them retreat again and again. The aura of a peak 10th order monster beast was in full display. Then, the heaven-escaping bat appeared, followed by the scarlet fire Chiline. Soon, a pitch-black flood dragon with a body length of more than 100 feet and 2 horns on its forehead, which seemed to have a trace of a true dragon's shape, appeared. The giant flood dragon surrounded Mo Xiaoqi, raised its head and puffed out its chest, its scarlet tongue flicking in and out of its mouth, looking like it was not to be trifled with. However, this black flood dragon's eyes were light blue, which was extremely strange. Blue eyes, black scale flood dragon? Immediately, a knowledgeable Jiang family elder cried out in surprise. Asterisk deng deng deng. Asterisk the group of Jiang family cultivator retreated a few steps, each of them looking at each other in shock, their faces filled with disbelief as they stared at the extremely rare and powerful monster beast. Not to mention the small heaven escaping bat, the silver lion tiger beast, the scarlet fire chileen, and the blue eyes black scale flood dragon that appeared in front of everyone. Which one of them wasn't a monster beast that was almost extinct? It was impossible to see an ordinary cultivator in the outside world. The reason why these monster beasts were almost extinct. It was because they all carried the bloodline of some ancient strange beast. This kind of bloodline was extremely difficult to pass down. With the passing of the flowing time great emperor and the passage of time, these monster beasts with the bloodline of ancient strange beasts became rarer and rarer with each generation, and in the end, they were almost extinct. The reason why the Jiang family elder recognized the blue eyes black scale flood dragon was because he had to cultivate a secret technique that required the blood essence of this black scale flood dragon. That was why he had made many inquiries. Unfortunately, he had spent more than 10 years, but he still couldn't find any trace of this black scale flood dragon. In the end, he had no choice but to give up on cultivating that secret technique. He never expected that after so many years, another blue eyes black scale flood dragon would suddenly appear in front of him. Because these monster beasts carried the bloodline power of ancient strange beasts, every one of them was extremely difficult to deal with. They were usually able to display strength that surpassed their own level. If they used the innate divine technique that was passed down from ancient times, it wouldn't be a problem for them to fight someone one level higher. In other words, the true strength of these monster beasts in front of them had to be increased by one level before they could accurately assess it. And right now, peak 10th level? They are actually all peak 10th level? What kind of monster beast are these? Where did they pop out from? Where did this little girl come from? A group of Jiang family cultivators exclaimed, the soles of their feet almost cramping. They originally thought that Mo Xiaoqi, who was alone and only had the cultivation of the origin king realm, was obviously a very good breakthrough point. They were prepared to capture her to restrain Yang Kai, who knew that they would suddenly poke a hornet's nest. Jiang Lin's face was even paler. As the patriarch of this generation of the Jiang family, how could he not guess that his patriarch had provoked someone he couldn't afford to provoke this time? He originally thought that Mo Xiaoqi only had some background, but when he saw the other party summon 4 peak 10th level monster beasts to help out with a wave of her hand, he immediately understood that Mo Xiaoqi didn't have some background at all. She clearly had a great background. She wasn't someone that a small family like his Jiang family could provoke. As the patriarch, he was naturally more worried than others. Moreover, when he looked at the small cloth bags on Mo Xiaoqi's waist, he vaguely seemed to think of something, but he couldn't figure it out. Just as the group of Jiang family cultivators were in a daze, Mo Xiaoqi had already gritted her little silver teeth and said angrily, "Little silver, little red, little black, teach this group of shameless guys a good lesson. How dare they bully me together, little silver, little red, little black." When the Jiang family members heard this, they were shocked and cold sweat flowed down their foreheads. 3 peak 10th level monster beast with the bloodline of ancient mutant beasts were actually given such simple and laughable names. If it were any other time, the Jiang family members would really laugh, but at this moment, they all wanted to cry. Asterisk roar, asterisk hoo hoo, asterisk hiss hiss. Asterisk the 3 monster beasts seemed to understand Mo Xiaoqi's order and responded with strange sounds. The silver liger roared and its huge body, which was several meters long, showed extraordinary agility at this moment. With a leap, it rushed into the group of Jiang family cultivators and raised its powerful front claws to sweep forward. With a sweep, a gust of wind rose and the sky almost changed color. How could the Jiang family members dare to face it? They all screamed and dodged. At this moment, the red fire chileen opened its big mouth and shot scorching red fireballs forward like a storm. Those fireballs were at least the size of a millstone and contained extremely terrifying flame power. The fireballs bombarded the ground and melted the earth. The Jiang family members were frightened and frightened. They all retreated far away for fear of being contaminated. The Blue Eyes Black Scale Flood Dragon also took action. A layer of dark aura suddenly spread out from its body and turned into a black cloud. It rushed into the battlefield like the wind and enveloped the 3 Jiang family origin King Realm cultivators. After a short while, the sound of fighting and strange hissing came from the black cloud. Mo Xiaoqi stood steadily in the water curtain of the weak water bead, holding the heaven-escaping bat in her arms and slowly combing its hair. Looking at the chaotic battlefield, she murmured faintly, "It seems that we can't get the upper hand. Should I call Xiao Bai, Xiao Huang, Xiao Qing, Xiao Lu, and the others? Jiang family members." Chapter 2071. Even though the 3-peak 10th Order monster beast were extraordinary, the Jiang family had a lot of Origin King Realm Masters, and there was no lack of 3rd Order Origin King Realm Masters among them. Therefore, the two sides were evenly matched in this battle. However, after hearing Mo Xiaoqi's words, everyone from the Jiang family felt their hearts skip a beat. They couldn't help but look at each other from a distance, speechless and choking on their tears. Just the 3 monster beasts were enough to tie them down. If Xiao Bai, Xiao Huang, Xiao Qing, Xiao Lu, and the others appeared, how could the Jiang family fight back? At this moment, Jiang Lin suddenly thought of something. While avoiding the fierce attacks of the Scarlet Flame Chelin, he looked at the small cloth bag on Mo Xiaoqi's waist in horror and exclaimed, "Spirit Beast Bag. Miss, are you from Spirit Beast Island?" Until now, he finally remembered the origin of those small cloth bags. Don't underestimate these small cloth bags because they were unique products of Spirit Beast Island. Only the masters of Spirit Beast Island could make such an artifact that could contain monster beast through a secret method. Moreover, Spirit Beast bags were never sold, so it was impossible for others to get one. On the other hand, Mo Xiaoqi had a lot of them hanging around her waist. If she had no relationship with Spirit Beast Island, how could she have gotten so many Spirit Beast bags? Spirit Beast Island was a famous existence in the entire star boundary. Although it wasn't as big as Star Soul Palace or Serene Soul Palace, and had many disciples, it was still a transcendent force. The owner of Spirit Beast Island, or rather, the Island Master, was one of the 10 great emperors, the martial beasts. It was rumored that there were many monster beasts that were rarely seen in the outside world on Spirit Beast Island. Even ancient divine spirits had settled there. They also settled down there. There were countless birds and beasts on the island. Therefore, even though Spirit Beast Island was just an island and the martial beast didn't open its doors to recruit disciples, the deterrence of Spirit Beast Island in the star boundary was not inferior to Serene Soul Palace and Star Soul Palace, which also had the 10 great emperors. However, Spirit Beast Island was located in the boundless sea of the Eastern Territory, hundreds of millions of kilometers away from the Southern Territory. Jiang Lin did not connect Mo Xiaoqi's identity to Spirit Beast Island at first. But as the patriarch of the family, after seeing the many magical methods Mo Xiaoqi had displayed at this moment, how could he not have guessed? "Young lady, what relationship do you have with Martial Beast?" Jiang Lin saw that Mo Xiaoqi did not answer, so he took the opportunity to ask. After all, as far as he knew, the Spirit Beast Island did not recruit disciples on a large scale to live on the island. All of them were related to Martial Beast. If Mo Xiaoqi was really from Spirit Beast Island, then she must be a relative or one of Martial Beast's few disciples. How could the Jiang family afford to offend such an existence? It would be more appropriate to treat her like a grandaunt. Mo Xiaoqi just stood in the water curtain of the weak water bead, holding Little Bat in one hand and stroking it with the other. Hearing this, he looked up at the sky. He had an indifferent look on his face. After hearing Jiang Lin's words, the expressions of the other Jiang family members changed drastically. They all felt a chill run down their spines. How could they still have the mood to deal with the monster beast's attacks? With this, the balance was immediately broken. First, an elder of the Jiang family was caught off guard and was hit by the red fire Chelin's fireball. He screamed and melted on the spot. Then, another deacon of the Jiang family was slapped into a meat patty by the silver liger beast. Blood splattered all over the ground. His death was too horrible to look at. From the black cloud transformed by the blue eyes black scale flood dragon, a figure flew out. Before landing, this figure's aura was cut off. After falling to the ground, his head tilted and he lay there forever. In an instant, 3 Jiang family origin king realm cultivators died a violent death. Seeing this, Jiang Lin's eyes turned red. He swept away the fear and worry in his heart and shouted, "Young lady, no matter what relationship you have with Martial Beast, since we have shed all pretense of cordiality today, either you die or we die." As soon as these words came out, the other Jiang family members were shocked. Everyone knew that there was no other way but to go all out. Not to mention that this blood feud had already been formed, Mo Xiaoqi's background was not something they could provoke. If they couldn't kill Mo Xiaoqi here today, there would be no place for the Jiang family in the entire star boundary in the future. Mo Xiaoqi didn't even need to do it herself. She only needed to spread the word and countless masters would rush to bring the heads of these Jiang family members for her. There weren't many opportunities to gain favor with Spirit Beast Island. After calming down, the group of Jiang family members regrouped and turned the tables around. But at this moment, the result of the Dao Source Realm battle seemed to have come out. Accompanied by a scream, the figures of Jiang Tai Sheng and Yang Kai, who were entangled in mid-air, separated upon contact. Yang Kai had a leisurely look on his face. On the contrary, Jiang Tai Sheng, who was standing not far in front of him, was pale and bloodless. A trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. It was obvious that he had suffered a serious injury. This century-old veteran Dao Source Realm Master had fallen into a disadvantageous position after fighting with Yang Kai for less than half a cup of tea's worth of time. He looked at Yang Kai with extreme resentment and disbelief. He couldn't believe that he wasn't this young man's opponent. Turning his head to look below, Jiang Taisheng's face suddenly sank. With his eyesight, how could he not see that these descendants of his family were also in trouble? He couldn't count on them at all. Perhaps, the Jiang family's several hundred years of foundation would be buried here today. Thinking of this, Jiang Taisheng's face darkened. He glared at Yang Kai angrily and shouted, "Junior, even if this old master dies today, I'll drag you down with me." Saying this, he pushed the power in his body. His pale old face turned a lot redder. At the same time, he bit the tip of his tongue and spat out a mouthful of blood essence. Yang Kai's face sank. He realized that the other party was really going to go all out against him. Although he was confident that he could kill Jiang Taisheng, the other party was still a Dao Source Realm Master. If he really went all out, he couldn't be underestimated. What's more, he was holding Zhong Ruoshi in his arms, so his movements were restricted. Therefore, Yang Kai cautiously assumed a defensive posture, lest this old man really used some kind of method to take him down with him. In the next moment, a cloud of blood mist wrapped around Jiang Taisheng. His figure couldn't be seen at all. Then, the blood mist flickered and directly disappeared. It turned into a rainbow light and quickly fled in the opposite direction of Yang Kai. Yang Kai was dumbfounded. For a moment, he was stunned on the spot. He didn't expect that Jiang Taisheng's slogan would be so loud and sonorous. It seemed that even if he died, he wouldn't let Yang Kai have an easy time. In the end, it was just a cover for his escape. Cunning old fox. Yang Kai cursed angrily. His eyes were full of contempt. At the same time, he hurriedly urged his space force and mobilized the space principles. He pointed at the bloody light that Jiang Taisheng had turned into and shouted, "Bind." The bloody light paused for a moment, but it was only for a moment. Soon, it broke through the blockade of the principal strength and fled forward at an even faster speed. After all, Jiang Taisheng was a Dao Source Realm Master. Yang Kai was mobilizing the principal strength from such a long distance, so how could he be trapped? After escaping the shackles of the space principles, he turned around and directly plunged into the cave in the barren mountain. Soon, he disappeared. This old thing. Yang Kai immediately understood Jiang Taisheng's intentions. Obviously, he was not a match for him and had suffered some injuries, so he didn't want to rely on speed to escape. If he really did so, he definitely wouldn't be able to escape Yang Kai's pursuit. Yang Kai, who understood the Tao of space, had an absolute advantage when it came to tracking and escaping. Therefore, Jiang Tai Sheng set his eyes on the space array in the cave. As long as he teleported away through the space array, Yang Kai wouldn't be able to catch up to him, no matter how powerful he was. Jiang Tai Sheng's plan was indeed good, and he succeeded as he wished. 2 breaths after he entered the cave, his aura suddenly disappeared and was replaced by a weak fluctuation of space force. This fluctuation of space force was naturally caused by Jiang Tai Sheng using the space array. On the other side, the hearts of the Jiang family members turned cold when they saw this. They had fought with their lives on the line, and even lost 3 of their people, all because they wanted to help their own ancestor. But they didn't expect that at this critical moment, their old ancestor would abandon them without hesitation and escape alone without even saying goodbye. They didn't have much confidence in defeating Mo Xiaoqi, and now that Yang Kai, a Dao Source Realm Master, was free, the Jiang family members would undoubtedly be courting death if they stayed. So, Jiang Lin made a prompt decision and shouted, "Let's go." Everyone hurriedly withdrew from the battle and madly ran towards the cave in the barren mountain. Their thoughts were the same as Jiang Tai Sheng's. Since they couldn't escape from Yang Kai, they could only rely on the power of the space array. As long as they could teleport away, they could escape this calamity. To their surprise, Yang Kai didn't have the slightest intention of stopping them. Instead, he stood in the air with an indifferent expression and watched them escape. However, the playful smile at the corner of his mouth made Jiang Lin vigilant. On the other hand, the other members of the Jiang family were overjoyed. They scrambled into the cave, filling up the small cave in no time. Pieces of source crystals were quickly thrown into the grooves around the array by an elder of the Jiang family. When everything was in place, he immediately urged his power to activate the array. However, nothing happened. As the members of the Jiang clan waited anxiously, the spatial magic array that should have been activated immediately was like an inanimate object. It didn't make a single sound, let alone teleport everyone away. "What's going on?" Jiang Chu he asked in shock. "The space array is not responding," the elder replied with a pale face. "Why is there no response?" "Let me try." As Jiang Chu he spoke, he urged his power and poured it into the space array just like the elder. But the result was the same. The space array seemed to have lost its function and didn't activate at all. A figure suddenly appeared at the entrance of the cave, letting out a strange laugh as he walked in step by step. Chapter 2072. The faces of the Jiang family members instantly turned ashen. They turned their heads to look at Yang Kai, who was gradually approaching them like the god of death. Their entire body was shrouded in a chill. Everyone suddenly realized that their wrong choice had caused them to be caught like a turtle in a jar by Yang Kai. "Very good, very good. Since you're all here, I won't have to chase after you one by one." Yang Kai stood not far in front of the Jiang family members and looked at them calmly. With a faint smile on his face, he said, "Your ancestor doesn't seem to be a very kind person." As soon as these words came out, Jiang Lin seemed to have been hit in the chest by an invisible sledgehammer. His face suddenly turned red, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Immediately, he looked up to the sky and lamented, "I hate it." The other Jiang family members also looked ashen. Their expressions were complicated and embarrassed. At this point, how could they not understand that the reason why the space array under their feet could not be operated was greatly related to the ancestor destroying another space array on the other side? The array in the cave and the one in the mine were connected to each other. Only when both were intact could they be transmitted to each other. However, as soon as Jiang Tai Sheng was transmitted away, the array here had a problem. Obviously, it was because he had done something on the other side. It was not difficult to understand why he would do this. He just wanted to obstruct Yang Kai's pursuit. However, because of this, he had ruined the escape route of the other Jiang family members. As the ancestor of a family, he only cared about himself at the critical moment and ignored the lives of his family members. How could they not be bitterly disappointed? In despair, Jiang Lin looked at Yang Kai with waning interest and said, "Alchemist Yang, since things have come to this, kill me or torture me as you wish." He still had some backbone. In the face of a desperate situation, he didn't have the intention to beg for mercy. Instead, he just wanted to die. He was probably hurt by his own ancestors' actions, so he didn't have the intention to continue living. However, although he thought so, the other Jiang family members did not think so. Jiang Lin said. The expressions of the Jiang family elders couldn't help but flicker, while the outstanding talent of the new generation, Jiang Chu-he, turned pale with fright. He hurriedly took a step forward, looked at Yang Kai with a fawning expression, and implored, Alchemist Yang. This Jiang had eyes but failed to see before and offended Alchemist Yang. I hope that Alchemist Yang will be magnanimous and not bother with me. Now, this Jiang has completely repented. In the future, I will definitely turn over a new leaf and follow by Alchemist Yang's side. Oh! Yang Kai raised his eyebrows, revealing a look of interest. Bastard, you! Jiang Lin was already suffering from a heart attack due to his blood and qi, causing him to become dispirited and listless. The situation was getting worse. He nearly fainted on the spot. Forcing himself to stay alert, he pointed a trembling finger at Jiang Chu-his spine and said in grief and indignation, You cowardly coward! How dare you call yourself a member of my Jiang family? Jiang Chu he abruptly turned his head and snapped, Old man, don't be so long-winded. Even the old ancestor has abandoned us, so why should I seek my own death? I, Jiang Chu he, am still young and have a bright future ahead of me. I don't want to die here for no reason. If you know what's good for you, hurry up and submit to Alchemist Yang. Alchemist Yang is kind and benevolent, so he may spare your lives. Well said. Yang Kai smiled faintly, looked at Jiang Chu he approvingly and said, A wise man submits to circumstances, not bad, not bad. Jiang Chu he hurriedly turned his head and put on a fawning expression, bowing slightly, and said with a flattering smile, Alchemist Yang is too kind. However, I hate cowardly people. Yang Kai's face suddenly turned cold. Jiang Chu his smile stiffened on his face. Alright, let's cut the crap. Originally, I didn't intend to exterminate the Jiang family. I only intended to punish the culprit. However, since this blood feud has already been formed, then, everyone, rest in peace. As he spoke, Yang Kai's expression gradually turned cold. Murderous intent surged like a tide as he slowly extended his hand and pushed it towards the Jiang family. The faces of the group of Jiang family origin kings changed drastically. They instinctively wanted to resist, but they were shocked to find that the surrounding space had already solidified. No matter how hard they tried, they couldn't move an inch. Not only that, even the strength in their bodies had stagnated in their meridians, unable to be activated. Principal strength. The faces of the Jiang family members instantly turned ashen as they watched Yang Kai's hand push forward, causing the aura of death to rush towards them. But right at this moment, a sudden change occurred. All of a sudden, the earth started to hum and tremble violently. In just a breath of time, a series of cracking sounds rang out from all directions. The sound was deafening, as if doomsday was coming. Yang Kai's face changed. He released his divine sense and after clearly detecting the changes in his surroundings, he didn't even have time to deal with the Jiang family members. His figure flickered and disappeared from the cave, appearing next to Mo Xiaoqi in the next moment. Xiaoqi had already put away her monster beast and was floating in the air with a solemn look on her face. After seeing Yang Kai appear, she hurriedly said, Big brother Yang, it seems to be that, I know, let's go. Yang Kai interrupted her. Pushing his source qi, he wrapped her up and quickly fled into the distance. At the same time, in the cave, the Jiang family members had just escaped death, and all of them were somewhat bewildered. No one knew who shouted that something bad was going to happen, but everyone rushed out of the cave one after another. When they got outside and looked around, the Jiang family members were dumbfounded. They saw that the earth within a radius of 1,000 miles was violently undulating like waves, as if something was causing trouble underground. Along with this violent undulation, crisscrossing ravines suddenly appeared in their field of vision. There were so many of them that no one knew how far they stretched. And from those ravines, a pitch-black aura spread out. This aura quickly divided into something like a pitch-black spirit snake and slithered around. The world was soon filled with this kind of thing. The Jiang family members were only distracted for a moment before they were completely surrounded by this black aura. "What is this?" An elder of the Jiang family cried out in horror. He could sense a sense of unease from the black aura. That feeling seemed to be able to trigger all kinds of negative emotions in the deepest part of his heart. In an instant, his eyes turned crimson red, and his breathing suddenly quickened. "Demonic qi! Oh no! Run!" The Jiang family members shouted and activated their powers, wanting to use their techniques to escape this place, but how could they make it in time? The pitch-black spirit snake-like existences were like living creatures, surging over from all directions and tightly surrounding the Jiang family members in an instant. The protective source power of the Jiang family cultivator could not stop the corrosion of this black aura at all. In a short while, holes were corroded, and the black aura took the opportunity to enter, drilling into their bodies through their mouths, noses, eyes, and ears. After a short while, screams sounded one after another. The Jiang family members seemed to be enduring unimaginable torture and pain. But after a while, these screams came to an abrupt stop. In the world shrouded by the black aura, the Jiang family cultivator straightened their backs and stood up again, but at this moment, their auras were very different from before. No matter who it was, they were all shrouded in a black aura, and each of them had an indescribable evil smile on their faces. Their eyes had also turned dark red, and they looked extremely terrifying. Boom, 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 boom. Somewhere, a huge hole was suddenly blasted open by a violent force. Soil flew everywhere, and from that hole, a vigorous figure rushed out. This figure landed on the ground and moved his arms and legs slightly, and a series of crisp crackling sounds came from his body. He twisted his neck again and suddenly laughed in a low voice. If Yang Kai was still here, he would definitely realize that this figure was not just anyone, but the Jiang family ancestor who was beaten by him like a stray dog, Jiang Taisheng. In just a short while, the injuries on Jiang Taisheng's body seemed to have healed. Not only that, his aura was more than a level stronger than before, as if he had received a huge upgrade. Not only him, but the rest of the Jiang family members were also the same. Everyone who was corroded and transformed by the black aura seemed to have a huge improvement in their aura and strength. Jiang Taisheng stood there for a while, and suddenly a series of whooshing sounds came from behind him. One figure after another rushed out of the hole behind him and stood behind him in an orderly manner, not saying a word. It was very strange. These figures were all the Jiang family cultivator and slave miners who had been demonized in the mine before. Jiang Taisheng looked around, and a very satisfied expression appeared on his face. Immediately, he raised his head and let out a long howl. The howl went straight to the sky, and the pitch-black demonic qi seemed to have been summoned by something. It spun and converged into a pitch-black tornado that rushed into the sky, as if it wanted to poke a hole in the sky. In the distance, Yang Kai and Mo Xiaoqi, who were running with all their might, heard the howl and looked back. Their faces couldn't help but change drastically. "This is bad," Yang Kai exclaimed. "I don't know what the Jiang family released this time, but I'm afraid that Maplewood City is in danger. If I'm not wrong, it should be the demonic qi of the ancient great demon." Mo Xiaoqi continued. "Ancient great demon?" Yang Kai frowned. In ancient times, the human race, demon race, and various other races had their heyday and once ruled the star boundary. However, with the change of the flowing time Great Emperor, the races changed and replaced one race after another. Our human race has been able to rule the star boundary until now because of our large numbers and numerous powerhouses, suppressing the living space of the other races. However, this doesn't mean that the other races have been destroyed. In some secret places in the star boundary, various races have their own places of reproduction and living, but they rarely show themselves. The current demon race is one of them. However, the current demon race is completely different from the ancient great demon. Only the pure demonic qi of the ancient great demon can demonize other creatures and transform them into members of the demon race. Chapter 2073. There's such a thing. Yang Kai exclaimed in surprise. Either the ancient great demon's demonic qi was sealed in that mine, Or the ancient great demon's body was sealed. Damn it, how did the Jiang family find this place and even destroy the seal? Mo Xiaoqi's pretty face was filled with anger. It seems that the reason why there are so many pure heart jades in that mine isn't naturally formed, but because of the seal. Yang Kai mused. The greatest effect of the pure heart jade was to purify the heart and mind, and it was the nemesis of the evil demonic qi. Perhaps, a long time ago, an ancient master used a large number of pure heart jades to set up a seal underground, but as the Jiang family continued to send people to excavate over the years, the seal must have been destroyed, resulting in the leaking of the demonic qi. I hope it's the former. If it's the latter. Mo Xiaoqi hesitated. What will happen? Yang Kai asked. Mo Xiaoqi glanced at him faintly and continued, this means that the ancient great demon has a chance to be resurrected. If that's the case, I'm afraid that only the 10 great emperors can destroy it personally. Hearing this, Yang Kai's face suddenly became gloomy. The demonic qi is dispersing. Mo Xiaoqi seemed to have made a new discovery at this moment and hurriedly shouted. Yang Kai took a moment to look back and found that it was just as Mo Xiaoqi said. The huge demonic qi that covered a radius of 1,000 kilometers seemed to have been mobilized by something and was dispersing in all directions. The rolling demonic qi was like an invincible torrent, leaving behind a mess wherever it went. At the foot of the barren mountain near the mine. There was originally a village here. But at this moment, when the demonic qi rolled past, miserable screams immediately rang out from the village. After the demonic qi disappeared, one figure after another wrapped in the dark aura stood up from every corner of the village. Immediately after, they set their eyes on Yang Kai and Mo Xiaoqi, who were fleeing in the distance, and chased after them. These ordinary people, who had never cultivated before, were now displaying physical strength that was not inferior to that of wild beasts. Their bodies were strong and vigorous. He was like a cheetah. Although he couldn't catch up with Yang Kai, he still had no intention of giving up. Sir! At this moment, Zhong Ruoshi's weak cry came from Yang Kai's arms. You're awake. Yang Kai looked down and saw Zhong Ruoshi looking at him with her eyes wide open. Her originally pale face seemed to have regained some color after this period of rest. Yang Kai hurriedly circulated his source qi and circulated it through her body. After making sure that she was fine, he finally relaxed. Sir, please save the orphan and widow of the Zhong family. Zhong Ruoshi pleaded, they don't know anything about the situation here. If we leave them alone. Hearing this, Yang Kai frowned. But very soon. He nodded and said, okay, I'll rush to the Zhong family. Thank you, sir. Zhong Ruoshi replied gratefully. Big brother Yang, why don't we split up? Mo Xiaoqi suddenly said, you go to the Zhong family, and I'll go to Maplewood City to inform the City Lord Master to take precautions. Otherwise, when the demonic qi invades Maplewood City, I'm afraid it will be too late. All right. Yang Kai nodded when he heard this. He also had this plan. Now that Mo Xiaoqi took the initiative to suggest it, it was naturally for the best. Be careful. I'll rush to Maplewood City to meet you as soon as possible. Then, we'll leave this place. En. Mo Xiaoqi nodded heavily. Then, she urged her strength and turned into a stream of light, shooting straight toward Maplewood City. After she left, Yang Kai suddenly accelerated. After half an incense stick of time, Yang Kai had arrived at the Zhong family's manor. At this moment, the sky had just brightened, but the group of orphans and widows of the Zhong family had woken up very early. There were already traces of people moving in the manor. When Yang Kai arrived, the two remaining men of the Zhong family, the fat and thin cultivator, were competing in an open space somewhere. The two of them had similar strength and cultivation, so they were locked in a fierce battle. Just as they were locked in a fierce battle, their vision blurred and a person suddenly appeared. The fat and thin cultivator were shocked and took a step back at the same time, shouting, "Who is it?" But in the next moment, the fat cultivator's face showed a happy expression and said in surprise, "Oh, it's our benefactor." And Ruoshi? The thin cultivator also saw Zhong Ruoshi, who was gently put down by Yang Kai, and greeted him enthusiastically. Since Yang Kai solved the Zhong family's extinction crisis last time, everyone in the Zhong family was grateful to Yang Kai. Seeing him now, they were naturally full of joy. Second brother, third brother. Jongruo-shi's pretty face blushed, as if she was a little embarrassed, and she quickly called out softly, "You guys chat, I'll go find the old madam." After saying this, Yang Kai's figure suddenly blurred and disappeared. "Benefactor, what are you doing in such a hurry?" The fat cultivator instinctively sensed that something was wrong and looked at Jongruo-shi worriedly. "Did something happen?" "It's like this." Jongruo-shi also knew that this was not the time to reminisce, so she quickly told them what happened in the mine. After hearing this, the fat and thin cultivators' faces turned pale. At this moment, the Zhong family's matriarch's voice suddenly sounded in their ears. Their expressions turned cold, and after calling Jongruo-shi, they hurriedly rushed to the manor. After half a cup of tea's time, an exquisite ship suddenly rose from the Zhong family's manor and quickly turned into a stream of light, shooting in the direction of Maplewood City. There weren't many people in the Zhong family now, only about a dozen. Except for the fat and thin cultivator, who were both men, the rest were all women. Moreover, their cultivations varied. In order to save time, Yang Kai could only summon the ship artifact and take them to Maplewood City. Fortunately, they didn't have many people, otherwise, they wouldn't have acted so quickly. The Zhong family's old madam didn't doubt Yang Kai's words. After learning the seriousness of the matter, she made a prompt decision to leave with Yang Kai, not caring about the hundreds of years of the Zhong family's foundation. The old madam was already half buried, so she naturally knew that as long as there were still people in the family, there would always be a chance to make a comeback. But if there were no people, then the family would really be finished. Compared to the safety of a family's members, what was a few hundred years of foundation? The distance of 300 kilometers was covered in a moment. At the city gate, the cultivator guarding the city saw the ship rushing over and his face changed drastically. One of the First Order Origin King cultivators raised his voice and shouted, "Who are you? No flight-type artifacts are allowed in Maplewood City. Please disembark immediately." There was no response from the ship. Seeing the ship getting closer and closer, the guards all had grave and stern expressions. Just as they were about to launch an attack on the ship to defend the dignity of Maplewood City, an unbearable pressure suddenly came from the ship. Dao Source Realm. The First Order Origin King cultivator almost knelt on the ground. As for the others, their cultivations were lower than his, so their situation was even worse. In this moment of distraction, the ship rushed into Maplewood City at an extremely fast speed. Who is so bold as to use a flight-type artifact in the city? This person is tired of living. Where are the people from the City Lord's mansion? Why didn't they teach him a lesson? Are you kidding me? The one on that ship is a Dao Source Realm Master. Besides the two Vice City Lords and the City Lord's Master, who can stop him? For a moment, the cultivator in Maplewood City looked up at the sky and whispered. Normally, Yang Kai would never be so ostentatious, but now, time was tight, and he had to bring a group of orphans and widows from the Zhong family with him, so he really had no choice. Good news did not go out, but bad news traveled 1,000 miles. Soon, the news that someone had ignored the rules of Maplewood City and used a flight-type artifact to break into the city spread to the ears of the great families in the city, making them very surprised. At this moment, Yang Kai had already arrived at Spirit Pill Plaza on his ship. Naturally, Yang Kai had come here to inform Kang Sai-ran. In the entire Maplewood City, he had a close relationship with Kang Sai-ran and Mo Xiao-chi. Now that Maplewood City was facing a disaster, he naturally had to inform the other party. Stay here and don't move. I have already activated the defensive barrier of the ship. I will be back soon, Yang Kai said to the group of people from the Zhong family before hurriedly leaving the ship. At the same time, Kang Sai-ran heard the noise and walked out of Spirit Pill Plaza. When he saw Yang Kai, Kang Sai-ran's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He pointed at him and said in shock, Brother Yang, he thought he had seen a ghost in broad daylight. After all, when the Yuan Furnace Mountain collapsed, Yang Kai disappeared without a trace. Later, he inquired about Yang Kai's whereabouts and knew that the people of Raging Fire Temple had searched the collapsed Yuan Furnace Mountain for 2 months, but still found nothing. More than half a year had passed, but there was still no news of Yang Kai. Kang Sai Ran took it for granted that Yang Kai had died in the Yuan Furnace Mountain. But now, Yang Kai had magically appeared in front of him. How could Kang Sai Ran not be surprised? But soon, Kang Sai Ran put on a relieved expression, as if he had put down a burden in his heart. He quickly walked forward, grabbed Yang Kai's arm with one hand, and patted him on the shoulder with the other. He looked him up and down and said, "Good, good, brother Yang, you are indeed a worthy person. This brother can finally rest assured." Kang Sai Ran had been feeling quite guilty these days because he had brought Yang Kai to the Yuan Furnace Mountain. But when the Yuan Furnace Mountain collapsed, he ran back safely while Yang Kai died there. Over the past half a year, Kang Sai Ran felt guilty every time he thought of this. He felt that he had harmed Yang Kai and often couldn't sleep at night, nor could he cultivate in peace. But now, the source of his uneasiness had returned safe and sound, so he naturally felt a lot more relaxed. Yang Kai's heart skipped a beat. He immediately understood Kang Sai Ran's psychological changes, but he couldn't explain anything. "Brother Yang, what are you?" Kang Sai Ran cast his gaze at the exquisite ship floating above Spirit Pill Plaza, a trace of suspicion flashing across his face. He didn't know what Yang Kai was up to. Chapter 2074. "Brother Kang, something bad has happened," Yang Kai shouted in a low voice with a grave expression. "What happened?" Kang Sai Ran's expression changed as he saw some clues from Yang Kai's expression, so he asked anxiously, "What happened?" "It's like this." Yang Kai quickly explained what happened in the mine, then continued, "Brother Kang, please pack up your things quickly and leave Maplewood City with me." "How could this be? How could there be the ancient great demon's pure demonic chi near Maplewood City?" Kang Sai Ran was stunned and couldn't believe his ears. If Yang Kai hadn't told him this, he would have just laughed it off and wouldn't have taken it seriously, but this was the news brought by Yang Kai, so he couldn't help but think about it. "There's no time to think about it." Yang Kai looked back worriedly at the sky outside the city, and as if he had noticed something, his expression changed slightly and he shouted in a low voice, "Brother Kang, I'm going to the City Lord's mansion, and I'll be back soon. After I come back, I'll leave this place immediately." After saying this, he activated his space force and started to flicker in the city. Kang Sai Ran shivered and didn't have time to think about it, so he turned around and rushed into the Spirit Pill Plaza. In the next moment, the whole Spirit Pill Plaza was in chaos. The City Lord's mansion was located in the center of Maplewood City, and Yang Kai had been there when he participated in the auction with Kang Sai Ran, so he was naturally familiar with the place. He wasn't going to the City Lord's mansion to inform anyone, but to find Mo Xiao Qi. Calculating the time, Mo Xiao Qi should have explained the situation in the mine to the City Lord's mansion by now, but she was still nowhere to be seen. Yang Kai could only go there in person. He had to bring Mo Xiao Qi back first. Halfway there, he took out the sound bead given to him by Mo Xiao Qi and poured his divine sense into it to send a message. Unfortunately, Mo Xiao Qi didn't respond. Yang Kai furrowed his brow, and after taking back the sound bead, he sped up a lot. After a short while, he arrived at the City Lord's mansion and swept it with his powerful divine sense. He immediately found Mo Xiao Qi's trail. Mo Xiao Qi was in a side hall of the City Lord's mansion at this moment, and there seemed to be a first-order Dao Source Realm cultivator with her. However, this cultivator's aura was very unfamiliar, so no one knew who he was. Space force fluctuated, and Yang Kai appeared in the side hall. Glancing around, Yang Kai immediately found that Mo Xiao Qi was standing in front of a grey-skinned old man at the moment, an excited look on her face as she said something. The old man, on the other hand, was standing in place with his hands behind his back. He had an indifferent look on his face. As soon as Yang Kai appeared, the old man sensed it and suddenly turned his head. Two rays of light suddenly shot out from his calm eyes and landed on Yang Kai. Immediately, a surprised expression appeared on his face. This was because the old man had discovered something. Yang Kai was actually an extremely unfamiliar Dao Source Realm cultivator. This was a rare sight in Maplewood City. Big Brother Yang. Mo Xiao Qi, on the other hand, acted as if she had seen her savior and greeted him happily. "Have you dealt with it?" Yang Kai asked hurriedly. Mo Xiaoqi heard this and looked annoyed. Pointing at the grey-skinned old man, she stomped her foot and said, "This Vice City Lord Zhuang doesn't believe what I said at all. I'm arguing with him. He doesn't believe you." Yang Kai frowned. But after hearing what Mo Xiaoqi said, Yang Kai also knew who this grey-skinned old man was. Maplewood City's Vice City Lord, Zhuang Pan. He was also a First-Order Dao Source Realm cultivator. There was only one City Lord in the entire Maplewood City. Of the two Vice City Lords, the City Lord was naturally Duan Yuan Shan, a Second-Order Dao Source Realm cultivator. Of the two Vice City Lords, one was Drunkard, who had once presided over the auction. He was eccentric, and the other was Zhuang Pan. Although he and Drunkard were only First-Order Dao Source Realm cultivators, they had been immersed in this realm for many years, so it was very possible for them to make a breakthrough at any time. Today, perhaps because he was on duty in the City Lord's mansion, it didn't take much effort for Mo Xiaoqi to see him after arriving here. Unfortunately, this Zhuang Pan didn't believe Mo Xiaoqi's words. No matter how serious the situation was described by Mo Xiaoqi, he still looked indifferent. Instead, he looked at Mo Xiaoqi with a suspicious look, wondering if he was suspecting that she was plotting something. This really made Mo Xiaoqi anxious. The reason she had taken the initiative to come to the City Lord's mansion to inform him of the demon qi leaking out was because she was kind-hearted and couldn't bear to see so many cultivators in Maplewood City suffer from the demon qi. She didn't have any selfish motives, but Zhuang Pan's attitude made her feel as if her face had been plastered to the ground, causing her to feel wronged. How should I address this friend? You look very unfamiliar. When Zhuang Pan faced Yang Kai, his expression finally became a lot more solemn. After all, Yang Kai's cultivation wasn't something he could ignore. Yang Kai greets Vice City Lord Zhuang. Yang Kai cupped his fists at him, and without waiting for him to say anything, he continued, "What my friend said before is not a fabrication. It's true. I saw it with my own eyes. As for how the City Lord's mansion should resist, I hope Vice City Lord Zhuang can quickly discuss a countermeasure with the City Lord's master. I'm afraid it will be too late if we delay. That's all I have to say, farewell." After Yang Kai finished speaking, he didn't give Zhuang Pan any face and pulled Mo Xiaoqi to leave. Seeing this, Zhuang Pan's face suddenly sank, looking very unhappy. At this moment, a First-Order Origin King cultivator rushed in with a panicked expression. When he entered the hall, he shouted, reporting to Vice City Lord Master, "Just now, a ship rushed into the city despite the city's ban on flying. There was a Dao Source Realm Master on the ship, and we were unable to stop it. We ask Vice City Lord Master to make a decision." Ship? Dao Source Realm? Zhuang Pan's eyes couldn't help but shrink when he heard this. In the next moment, he looked up at Yang Kai's back and immediately shouted, "Friend, take care." As soon as he finished speaking, he angrily pushed his source qi and his figure flickered. He appeared behind Yang Kai like a ghost and reached out to pat his shoulder. Sensing the movement behind him, Yang Kai pushed Mo Xiaoqi away, turned around, and raised his hand to meet Zhuang Pan's big hand. Hong. With a loud bang, the world energy shook, and a gust of wind raged in the hall. Yang Kai was as still as a mountain, but Zhuang Pan took a step back slightly, his face becoming even gloomier than before. "What do you want to do?" Yang Kai leaned to the side and looked at Zhuang Pan with an unfriendly face, a cold light flashing in his eyes. Zhuang Pan's heart trembled, but he was still a Dao Source Realm Master, so he took a deep breath to calm the tumbling blood in his chest and said in a deep voice, "Friend, this Zhuang is the Vice City Lord of Maplewood City and has the authority to manage all affairs in the city. You must have heard the guard's report just now, so this Zhuang wants to know. That ship is indeed mine." Yang Kai didn't wait for him to finish and finished his sentence. "Friend, you are quite bold." Zhuang Pan was furious when he heard this. No flying is allowed in Maplewood City, and no flying artifacts are allowed. This is a rule that no one can break. Since this friend has ignored the orders of the City Lord's mansion, this Zhuang Pan must ask for an explanation. Before Yang Kai could speak, Mo Xiaoqi stomped her foot and said angrily, "You are really interesting. The leaked demonic qi is about to attack Maplewood City, but you are here investigating Big Brother Yang's ship. Do you really not care about the lives of the hundreds of thousands of people in Maplewood City? Zhuang Pan narrowed his eyes and coldly snorted. Whether this is true or not, how can this Zhuang believe your one-sided words? This friend has broken the rules of Maplewood City, so I'm afraid you can't just leave like this, right? If you want to leave, you have to ask this Zhuang first. What rules are you talking about when you are about to die? Yang Kai laughed angrily. Xiao Qi, there's no need to talk to him anymore. We have already delivered the news, so it's up to him to believe it or not. When the day comes that Maplewood City is plunged into misery and suffering, I want to see if those hundreds of thousands of innocent souls will continue to haunt him day and night. Let's go. Mo Xiaoqi nodded, glared angrily at Zhuang Pan, and then followed after Yang Kai. This king said, if your excellency wants to leave, you have to pass through this king first. Zhuang Pan shouted angrily as a small pagoda-like artifact suddenly appeared in his hand. Pouring his source qi into it, the small pagoda began to rotate and fly towards Yang Kai and Mo Xiaoqi. While flying, the small pagoda expanded in the wind, growing into a behemoth more than a dozen meters high. The bottom of the pagoda was dark and shrouded in principal strength as it pressed down on Yang Kai and Mo Xiaoqi. From the looks of it, it seemed the pagoda intended to suppress the two of them directly. A Dao Source-grade artifact. Yang Kai noticed the powerful aura emanating from the small pagoda and his eyes couldn't help narrowing as his anger flared up. Gritting his teeth, Yang Kai reached out and took out a light blue bead, pouring his source qi into it. The light blue bead wasn't big, only the size of a longan fruit, but as he poured his source qi into it, a faint arc of lightning appeared inside the bead. Mo Xiaoqi stared at the bead in astonishment and immediately let out a soft cry of surprise, as if she was extremely surprised. At that moment, the arc of lightning leapt out of the bead like a fish and, with a light crackling sound, flew towards the pagoda. Seeing this scene, Zhuang Pan couldn't help sneering, his eyes filled with disdain and contempt as he formed a series of hand seals, causing the already large pagoda to become even larger. Catcher. The arc of lightning struck the interior of the pagoda and disappeared in the blink of an eye. The pagoda didn't react at all. Zhuang Pan laughed and ridiculed. Friends' means are really eye-opening. Yang Kai just stood quietly in place and responded with a sneer. Seeing such a strange reaction, Zhuang Pan's heart skipped a beat for no reason as a bad feeling suddenly welled up in his heart. Before he could figure out what kind of trick Yang Kai had up his sleeve, a series of crackling sounds came from inside the tower that was pressing down from the sky. Immediately afterwards, the tower's exterior flashed with a dense layer of lightning, like a dancing demon, while the light of the tower itself flickered erratically. The moment the lightning flashed, Zhuang Pan felt as if he had been struck by lightning. His face paled as he opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. His aura weakened greatly as he cried out in alarm, "How is this possible?" Chapter 2075. At that moment, Zhuang Pan realized that the spirituality of his pagoda had been greatly damaged. His pagoda was a Dao Source-grade low-rank artifact that he had refined with his secret technique and divine sense for many years, so it was closely related to him. After using that secret technique to refine it, although it could greatly increase the power of the pagoda, correspondingly, once the pagoda was damaged, as its owner, he would also suffer varying degrees of backlash. At this moment, he was suffering a great backlash. The source qi in his body was turbulent and on the verge of going berserk. He was unable to suppress it at all, so he had no choice but to spit out a mouthful of blood. Catcher. The lightning flowing around the pagoda continued for a long time before gradually extinguishing. The surface of the pagoda did not seem to be damaged, but its spirituality had been greatly damaged. Moreover, Zhuang Pan could feel that the interior of his pagoda was actually quite damaged, with many cracks appearing. If he wanted to repair it completely, he would have to find some special materials, and it would take a lot of time. After receiving this blow, Zhuang Pan's vitality surged again, and he kept coughing up blood. Vice City Lord, Master. The guard who came in to report before saw this and shouted in shock. Zhuang Pan clutched his chest, his face extremely pale, his breathing uneven as he looked at Yang Kai with an ugly expression. His eyes were filled with horror and disbelief. He really could not understand. What grade was that round bead-like artifact? How could it release such great power in a single blow? Even his own Dao Source grade artifact could not resist it. If it had hit him, how could he have survived? If he knew that the round bead was an Emperor artifact, he would be relieved. After all, Zhuangpan was a Dao Source Realm Master, and Yang Kai did not want to waste any more time with him, so he summoned one of the two Emperor artifacts, the Annihilation Thunder Bead. When he obtained the Annihilation Thunder Bead, he was just an origin returning realm cultivator, and although he could activate the Annihilation Thunder Bead, he could not display its full power because of his insufficient cultivation. He had used it many times, and every time he used it, the power of the Annihilation Thunder Bead would grow stronger as his strength increased. Now that he was a Dao Source Realm cultivator, he could mobilize the world principles, but he still could not display the full power of an Emperor artifact. It was still not something a Dao Source grade artifact could contend with. When the two collided, it was clear who was stronger and who was weaker. Vice City Lord Zhuang, please conduct yourself with dignity. If you dare to stop me again, don't blame this Yang for being merciless. Yang Kai glared coldly at Zhuangpan as he growled. Zhuangpan's face was ashen. He opened his mouth but didn't dare to say anything. Naturally, he could sense that Yang Kai was not bluffing. He really intended to do so. In other words, if she continued to obstruct him in the slightest, she might really die here. Ha 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 ha, friend, you sure talk big. Suddenly, a loud laugh came from outside. Then, two figures, one thin and one fat, rushed in from outside. At the same time, a strong wine aroma filled the hall. Seeing this, Yang Kai couldn't help but frown. He glanced at the newcomer. He recognized both of them. The short and fat man was the eccentric Vice City Lord, Drunkard. As soon as he entered the hall, he glanced around and narrowed his eyes. But soon, he calmed down and took a big gulp from the gourd at his waist, as if to suppress his shock. As for the slightly thinner cultivator, he was shockingly the City Lord of Maplewood City, Duan Yuan Shan. He was also the only second-order Dao Source Realm Master in Maplewood City. Yang Kai had seen Duan Yuan Shan many times, so he was naturally no stranger to him. At this moment, Duan Yuan Shan's eyes were looking at Yang Kai with great interest. He laughed and said, "When did my Maplewood City have another Dao Source Realm Master? It's really worth celebrating." He didn't seem to have any intention of blaming Yang Kai for injuring Zhuangpan. Instead, he showed a very gratified expression. It wasn't difficult to understand why these two would suddenly appear here. After all, this was the City Lord's mansion. Duan Yuan Shan and Drunkard usually lived here. Just now, when Yang Kai and Zhuangpan's artifacts collided, how could they not notice the strong energy fluctuations emitted? So, they rushed over at the same time. "Greetings City Lord, Master, Vice City Lord, Master." Yang Kai frowned and cupped his fists at the two. Drunkard grinned and reached out to wipe the wine flowing from the corner of his mouth. He casually returned the salute and didn't say anything. Instead, he found a place next to a pillar in the hall and sat down with a lazy look on his face. He picked up the wine gourd and poured it into his mouth. Duan Yuan Shan chuckled, "This friend is too polite. Ian, how should I address you? This one is Yang Kai. So, it's Brother Yang." A trace of suspicion flashed across Duan Yuan Shan's face. This city lord remembers that there is no great family surnamed Yang in Maplewood City. "I'm just a scattered cultivator who came to Maplewood City more than a year ago. So that's how it is." Duan Yuan Shan showed a look of surprise and immediately said, "Then, may I ask why Brother Yang and Brother Zhuang are making such a big fuss? We're all Dao Source Realm cultivators, so why don't we sit down and talk about it? Why are you so agitated? City Lord, this person is really arrogant. He ignored the rules of the city and rushed into the city on a ship. This Zhuang just wanted to ask him some questions, but he didn't cooperate at all. Please investigate thoroughly, City Lord." Zhuangpan didn't wait for Yang Kai to speak and spoke first. What he said was in line with the truth and didn't embellish anything. "Is that so?" Duan Yuan Shan frowned and turned to look at Yang Kai. "Yes, it's true." Yang Kai nodded. Zhuangpan immediately sneered, "City Lord, Master, The rules of Maplewood City were set by you personally, but this person is ignoring them. Wantonly destroying. May I ask, how should we deal with him? He had just suffered a loss at the hands of Yang Kai and even lost the spirituality of his pagoda, so naturally, he hated Yang Kai to the extreme. At this moment, Duan Yuanshan and Drunkard were here together, so if they could really convict Yang Kai, they would definitely make Yang Kai suffer. This was what he wanted to see. If City Lord, Master still wants to punish this Yang after learning the other news, then this Yang has nothing to say. Yang Kai didn't wait for Duan Yuanshan to speak. He sneered and said, "What news?" Duan Yuanshan saw his serious expression and was a little puzzled. 2,000 kilometers away, the ancient great demon's seal has been broken and its pure demonic chi is leaking out. I'm afraid it won't be long before it attacks Maplewood City, Yang Kai said. What? Duan Yuanshan heard this and exclaimed, "The ancient great demon's seal? The pure demonic chi is leaking out." On the side, Drunkard, who was leaning against a stone pillar and drinking wine, was also stunned, the drunkenness on his face completely gone. His eyes widened as he looked at Yang Kai, the wine at the corner of his mouth flowing all over his body, but he didn't notice. "You're spouting nonsense." Zhuang Pan shouted angrily, "City Lord, Master, don't listen to this person's nonsense." Duan Yuanshan raised his hand to stop him from continuing. He looked at Yang Kai with a serious expression. He asked, "Is this true? Where did Brother Yang get this news? What evidence does he have? I saw it with my own eyes. I also fled all the way back to Maplewood City." Yang Kai glanced at Zhuang Pan and sneered, pointing at Mo Xiaoqi, "This friend of mine is worried about the safety of the hundreds of thousands of people in Maplewood City, so she specially came to the City Lord's mansion to inform you so that you can make preparations." However, Vice City Lord Zhuang didn't move and didn't even have the intention to send someone to investigate. Instead, because this one flew into Maplewood City in a hurry and broke the rules, he kept nagging and pestering endlessly. He even started a fight. Heh. As for evidence, won't you know if you go and see for yourself? It's only 2,000 kilometers, not too far. I'll go and see. On the other side, Drunkard heard this and didn't dare to be negligent. He quickly put the wine gourd on his waist, stood up abruptly, and turned into a stream of light, shooting out. "I've said all that needs to be said. City Lord, Master, this one will take his leave." Yang Kai finished speaking and signaled to Mo Xiaoqi. Mo Xiaoqi understood and quickly walked out. "You can't leave. We haven't figured out what's going on yet." Zhuang Pan stood in place and shouted in a threatening manner, "If you dare to stop me, I'll kill you." Yang Kai didn't even look back. After leaving this sentence, he disappeared with Mo Xiaoqi. "City Lord, Master, this person is simply too arrogant and despotic." Zhuang Pan didn't dare to stop Yang Kai, so he could only pin his hopes on Duan Yuanshan, hoping that he would take action to restrain Yang Kai. The latter glanced at him leisurely and said lightly, "If what this person said is true, I'm afraid Maplewood City is in imminent danger." Zhuang Pan heard this and shivered, not daring to say anything else. Although Duan Yuanshan didn't say anything, how could he not see the dissatisfaction and blame in the eyes of the City Lord Master? He knew that he was extremely angry and anxious at this moment. But the ancient great demon's seal had been broken and the pure demonic chi had leaked out. No matter how he thought about it, it was impossible. After a short while, Duan Yuanshan suddenly took out a communication artifact from his space ring and poured his divine sense into it. Obviously, Drunkard had sent back a message. Zhuang Pan looked at it expectantly, praying in his heart that Yang Kai and Mo Xiaoqi were just making things up. If that was the case, he would have a reason to find trouble with Yang Kai. Duan Yuanshan would definitely not let Yang Kai go for deceiving the City Lord. But, under Zhuang Pan's nervous and expectant gaze, Duan Yuanshan's face suddenly turned pale and his body trembled slightly. "City Lord Master!" Zhuang Pan shouted nervously. "Pass down the order, activate all the defensive spirit arrays in the city. Increase the power of the spirit arrays to the maximum at all cost." Duan Yuanshan suddenly shouted, spreading throughout the entire City Lord's mansion. "No way!" Zhuang Pan's face turned ashen as he fell to the ground. Duan Yuan Shan glanced at him angrily before his figure flickered and disappeared from the hall. After a short while, countless orders were sent out from his communication artifact in an orderly manner, spreading to every corner of Maplewood City. After a short while, buzzing sounds came from the vicinity of Maplewood City's walls. The various defensive spirit arrays that had not been activated for many years were activated today. Chapter 2076. Maplewood City. Accompanied by a violent noise and shaking of the earth, a multicolored light curtain suddenly emerged, forming a semicircle that enveloped the city. These spirit arrays were painstakingly created and arranged by the city lords and family masters of Maplewood City in order to guard against foreign enemies, but these spirit arrays have basically never been used. Because Maplewood City has not been invaded by any powerful enemies so far, even the cultivator who has lived in Maplewood City for a long time almost forgot about the existence of these spirit arrays. But today, these spirit arrays were activated one by one. What's going on? Why are these spirit arrays activated? Something big must have happened. Is there a foreign enemy invasion? Could it be a master from the Emperor realm? For a time, many cultivator in the city were bewildered and began to discuss. Some even raised their eyes in the direction of the City Lord's mansion, wondering what kind of explanation the City Lord's mansion would give. But at this moment, a hurried shout came from outside the city. "Everyone, enter the city quickly, don't delay." This voice was shouted several times in a row, as if it was very urgent, and it was full of energy, spreading almost all over Maplewood City. It's the voice of Vice City Lord Drunkard. After some of the warriors recognized the owner of the voice, their expressions turned cold, and they immediately rushed up to the city wall. Looking around. In a short while, the city wall was full of people. The next moment, exclamations came one after another. "Look, Vice City Lord Master seems to be being chased by something. Heavens, what the hell is that thing? It's so dark. Even Vice City Lord Master is no match for it." Just as everyone was discussing, Drunkard had already rushed to the front of Maplewood City. Seeing this, the cultivator in charge of controlling the spirit array immediately opened a hole in front of him. Drunkard's figure flickered and shot into the city through the hole. After he entered, the crack quickly closed up and returned to its original state. At the same time, the dark aura that followed behind Drunkard also rushed here, and without slowing down, it directly hit the outermost light curtain. Hong, a loud noise rang out. The bright light screen actually trembled slightly, and its color suddenly dimmed a lot, almost shattering. This scene was imprinted into the eyes of the nearby cultivator. Immediately, they were shocked, and their expressions changed greatly as they retreated one after another. The cultivator controlling the formation also hurriedly activated his own power. He increased the input of his own power. It took a lot of effort to stabilize the trembling light screen. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, streams of light streaked across the sky from all directions in the city. Obviously, they were the masters of Maplewood City who had noticed the commotion here. City Lord Duan Yuan Shan was the first to appear. He landed on the city wall and stared ahead with a solemn expression, his eyelids twitching slightly. On both sides of him, several masters with Dao Source Realm auras appeared one after another. When they saw the horrifying scene in front of them, their faces changed drastically. "City Lord Duan, what are these things?" one of the white-haired elders asked. This old man had the cultivation of the First Order Dao Source Realm. He was none other than the old ancestor of the Qin family, Qin Chaoyang. He was also the oldest among the nearly 10 Dao Source Realm masters present. He seemed to be nearing the end of his lifespan, and there were even some age spots on his face. This was extremely rare for a Dao Source Realm cultivator. Only those cultivators who were nearing the end of their lifespan would show such physiological changes. "That's right, City Lord Duan. Since you gave the order to activate the defensive array in advance, you should have received some news, right?" Du family's old ancestor Du Li Shan asked. The other Dao Source Realm masters of the other families also looked at Duan Yuan Shan, expecting him to give an explanation. "Demonic Qi. The ancient great demon's pure demonic Qi," Duan Yuan Shan said with a solemn expression. It is said to have leaked from 2,000 kilometers away. The ancient great demon's pure demonic chi? The expressions of the group of Dao Source Realm Masters changed drastically when they heard this. This city lord has just received the news. Don't ask me where the demonic chi came from. This city lord doesn't know. I only know that if we don't work together, Maplewood City will be in danger today. The expressions of the Dao Source Realm Masters turned solemn when they heard this. Duan Yuan Shan turned his head and looked around. You are all leaders of your respective families. Many of your clansmen are still in the city. You don't want to see them get corroded by the demonic chi and lose their minds, right? Of course. Qin Chaoyang was the first to express his opinion. However, we still need City Lord Master to tell us how to deal with the enemy. That's right. This is the first time we have encountered the ancient great demon's pure demonic chi. We don't know how to expel it effectively, Liang family's Liang Pengla said with a solemn expression. This. Duan Yuan Shan was at a loss for words. Although he was a second-order Dao Source Realm Master, a level higher than everyone present, this was the first time he had encountered the ancient great demon's pure demonic chi. How would he know how to expel it effectively? Brother Duan, we might as well consolidate the defensive line first. We can study the rest later. Drunkard had already sobered up and was more sober than ever. That's right. Duan Yuan Shan's eyes lit up and he said, Everyone, please look for a section of the city wall and assist others in stabilizing the defensive spirit array. Wait for me to find someone and ask him for some information. While speaking, Duan Yuan Shan gave Drunkard a look. Drunkard understood and immediately called everyone forward to start studying. After a short while, all the Dao Source Realm cultivator had determined their defensive territory and dispersed. Drunkard's expression flickered as he seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly rushed towards the City Lord's mansion. The shocking changes outside the city had long been known by many cultivator in the city. 1 spread to 10, 10 spread to 100, and very soon. All the cultivator in Maplewood City knew something about the situation. Naturally, the hot-blooded cultivator heeded the call and went to the city wall to assist in the defense. For a time, the city wall of Maplewood City was overcrowded. At the same time, in front of Spirit Pill Plaza, Yang Kai and Mo Xiaoqi returned and swept with their divine senses. Yang Kai knew that Kang Sai Ran and the people of Spirit Pill Plaza were ready and had even boarded the ship. He gestured to Mo Xiaoqi and she immediately flew into the ship. Just as he was about to enter the ship, he suddenly looked to the side thoughtfully. Over there, in the crowd of onlookers, an ordinary-looking middle-aged man was quietly looking at him. When their eyes met, the middle-aged man's lips curled slightly, revealing a strange smile. Yang Kai couldn't help but frown. He felt that this middle-aged man was very unfamiliar. He was sure that he had never seen this person before, but this person was actually a cultivator from the third-order Dao Source realm, which was really a bit inconceivable. It was rare for a master of this level to appear in Maplewood City. Aside from the Luanfeng's appearance in Clear Jade Mountain, which had attracted countless powerful masters to investigate, there might not even be a single third-order Dao Source realm master passing through Maplewood City every year. But now, there was one in the crowd. And it seemed that this person was somewhat interested in him. This made Yang Kai a little puzzled. However, he didn't think too much about it and quickly boarded the ship and drove it away. After the ship left, the middle-aged man sneered and muttered to himself in a voice that no one else could hear, "It's really a case of wearing out iron shoes in a fruitless search, only to find it without any effort. I didn't expect to run into young Palace Master's ship here after half a year without any clues. So, it seems you know something? This middle-aged man. Surprisingly, he was the master sent by Flying Saint Palace's Palace Master to investigate the murderer of Ning Yuan Cheng more than half a year ago. He followed the vine to the melon and easily found out that Ning Yuan Cheng's last appearance was at the auction in Maplewood City, so he naturally rushed all the way to Maplewood City. However, after half a year, he didn't find any useful information. How could he have known that today, by coincidence, he would see Ning Yuan Cheng's ship artifact in the city? He didn't think that Yang Kai had the ability to kill Ning Yuan Cheng. After all, Ning Yuan Cheng was protected by Liu Yizhi, a second-order Dao Source realm cultivator. With Yang Kai's cultivation, he shouldn't have such ability, but he felt that since Yang Kai could obtain Ning Yuan Cheng's ship, he must know something. That was why he was a little concerned about Yang Kai. There were too many eyes in the city, so it wasn't convenient for him to act, so he planned to follow Yang Kai out before making a decision. Outside the city wall, Yang Kai flew his ship over, but when he saw the situation outside, his heart sank, because at this moment, the boundless ancient demonic chi had completely surrounded Maplewood City, leaving no gap at all. If one were to look down from above, Maplewood City at this moment seemed to have an extra layer of solid black walls cast from a dark material. The pitch-black city wall wriggled continuously, spanning several tens of miles. Any living being that dashed into it would most likely be met with misfortune. Although the grade of the ship artifact wasn't low and it also had some defensive barriers, if they rushed in rashly, Yang Kai knew that except for himself, everyone else would definitely suffer. Brother Yang. Kang Sai Ran obviously also noticed the situation, and his face suddenly turned pale. What should we do? It's too late. Mo Xiao Qi bit her red lips lightly, a look of annoyance on her face, at the same time cursing Zhuang Pan in her heart. If they hadn't wasted so much time with Zhuang Pan, they might have had a chance to leave this place before the demonic chi surrounded the city, but now, it was too late. Inside the ship, many pairs of eyes were also looking at Yang Kai. At this moment, Yang Kai's cultivation was the highest, and he had become their backbone. Although Yang Kai's face was cold, he didn't show much panic. Because even if he had no way out in the end, he could send everyone here into the sealed world bead and break through this demonic chi alone. Using his space force, Yang Kai was 80% sure he could escape safely, but in this way, the great secret of the sealed world bead could no longer be hidden. The people from the Zhong family were fine. After all, Yang Kai was their benefactor, so if Yang Kai asked them not to reveal the secret of the sealed world bead, they would definitely swear to keep their mouths shut. Chapter 2077. However, the same couldn't be said for the shop assistants and alchemists of Spirit Pill Plaza. Yang Kai didn't have much of a friendship with them, so if they were to reveal the secret of the sealed world bead, it would likely attract the covetous eyes of countless masters. The sealed world bead was an emperor artifact that could form its own world and be carried around. It was probably the only one of its kind in the entire star boundary. There were still some treasures that could form their own worlds in the star boundary. For example, the 5-colored treasure pagoda that Yang Kai entered last time was the most precious treasure of Star Soul Palace, and it also had its own world inside. However, the biggest difference between the 5-colored treasure pagoda and the sealed world bead was that it couldn't be carried around and could only be placed inside Star Soul Palace. The sealed world bead was of great importance, so Yang Kai didn't dare to expose it unless it was absolutely necessary. Now it seems that it's impossible to break out of the encirclement head-on. Yang Kai murmured. Suddenly, his expression changed and he asked, "There should be a space array in Maplewood City, right? In the territory of Hometown Star, there were space arrays that could be used for teleportation in the big cities, let alone in the vast star boundary. Although Maplewood City wasn't big, it should have a space array." "There is, but it's in the City Lord's mansion." Kang Sai Ran nodded and replied. "Let's go to the City Lord's mansion." Yang Kai responded and immediately controlled the ship to fly in the direction of the City Lord's mansion. Looking down from the sky, the entire Maplewood City was in chaos at this moment. When the news of the ancient great demon's pure demonic chi besieging the city spread, the cultivator who lived in the city all year round naturally panicked, fearing that the city's defensive spirit array would be broken and they would suffer. And the first way out they could think of was, naturally, they could use the space array to teleport away. So at this time, the cultivator who was rushing towards the City Lord's mansion. Who knows how many? After realizing this, Yang Kai's face darkened and he urged the ship to move even faster. After a while, the ship arrived above the City Lord's mansion. But before he could control the ship to descend, he suddenly sensed the energy of a Dao Source Realm Master erupting from one of the palaces. With a loud bang, the palaces were destroyed. Broken stones flew everywhere, and the great hall was suddenly turned into a pile of rubble. Many cultivators flew out of the ruins, cursing and swearing, all of them looking angry. That place. It's. The corner of Kai Yang's mouth twitched as he cast his gaze towards a sloppy figure floating in midair. His clothes were ragged and his hair was a mess. He looked no different from a beggar, but this person was giving off a powerful aura that only a Dao Source Realm Master could possess. There was also a large cyan gourd hanging from his waist. Who else could it be but Drunkard? At this time, he was the only Dao Source Realm Master here. It seemed that the commotion just now was his doing. Below. At this moment, countless cultivators were glaring at Drunkard angrily, as if they couldn't wait to kill him. Vice City Lord Master, why did you destroy the teleportation array? We have always respected you, but we didn't expect you to be so vicious at this critical moment. Yeah, Drunkard, why did you cut off our way out? The space array is destroyed. We're done for. We can't escape anymore. Drunkard. If you don't give us an explanation today, don't even think about leaving this place alive. Drunkard, we're irreconcilable enemies. Angry shouts and questions were like the sharpest thorns, stabbing towards Drunkard who was floating in midair. Some of the more agitated ones had already taken the initiative to take action, summoning their artifacts and displaying their martial skills to attack Drunkard's face. Drunkard simply stood there, motionless. Even in the face of the attacks, he didn't even bat an eye. He simply pushed his source chi to protect himself, showing no intention of fighting back. Everyone. Drunkard looked around, his eyes cold, his voice low and deep as he shouted, "This old man understands everyone's thoughts, and I know everyone's thought. But today, my Maplewood City is besieged by the demonic chi and is in imminent danger. It could be broken at any time. You old fart, since you knew, why did you destroy the space array? You really have sinister intentions." A roar came from the crowd. Drunkard turned his gaze to that side, an apologetic look flashing across his face as he continued, "Because of this old man had no choice but to do this. My Maplewood City has hundreds of thousands of cultivators. If we can work together, then we might be able to overcome this calamity. But if all of you only want to leave this place through the spatial formation, then the city will definitely be destroyed. At that time, all living beings here will be plunged into misery and suffering, and wails will be everywhere. It will definitely become a living hell. This old man has lived in Maplewood City all his life. This old man's family and friends are all here. This old man doesn't want to see them suffer and lose their minds. Are all of you willing to see such a scene? If you only think about running for your lives, then who will protect your family and friends?" At this point, Drunkard's dignified eyes swept around. The angry voices in the crowd gradually weakened as many people lowered their heads and pondered. My Maplewood City is just a drop in the ocean of the entire star boundary. Even in the Southern Territory, it is not famous and few people know about it. But the men of my Maplewood City are all proud and unyielding. This old man has lived for most of his life and has witnessed hundreds of years of flowing time. Great Emperor in Maplewood City. This old man likes this place and doesn't want to see the moment the city is broken. Rest assured, everyone, there are already messengers who have gone to other cities through the transmission array and will also pass on the information here to Star Soul Palace and other great sects. I believe that soon, there will be masters coming to help and solve the crisis of my Maplewood City. But before that, this old man earnestly requests that you all guard the city with me and resist the foreign enemies. This old man promises that he will do his best to protect the city and keep everyone safe. Even if his blood is spilled, he will have no complaint. Everyone, please lend me a hand." At this point, Drunkard swept his gaze around, his eyes full of sincere pleading. The entire scene was silent, and it wasn't as clamorous and disorderly as before any longer. "Count this city lord in. This city lord swears on his heart demon that if the city survives, we will survive." Duan Yuan Shan's voice suddenly came from afar, and after a short while, his figure flickered and appeared beside Drunkard. Drunkard was taken aback, but immediately grinned at Duan Yuan Shan. "Old Drunkard, you've given a lot of thought." Duan Yuan Shan quietly sent a message, his face full of gratitude. Drunkard slowly shook his head. At this moment, in the crowd below, someone suddenly shouted, "Follow the City Lord and Vice City Lord closely, listen to the orders of the two lords. If the city lives, the people will live. If the city falls, the people will die. If the city survives, we will survive. If the city survives, we will survive. More and more cultivator joined in the shouting, and gradually, the earth-shaking voices converged into a shocking sound wave that spread in all directions and spread to the ninth heaven. Everyone was united. Unity was an impregnable fortress. Drunkard looked down with a gratified face and bowed deeply. Whether the people below sincerely supported him or were forced to do so, as long as they were willing to do their part to protect Maplewood City, it was enough to earn his gratitude. Many thanks, everyone. Now we have no way out. If we want to live, the only way is to resist the demonic chi. Please go to the city wall and support the fellow cultivators in the city. Drunkard shouted in all directions. As soon as his voice came out, the crowd below began to move, each summoning a flight-type artifact and dispersing in all directions. Old Drunkard, I'll leave this place to you, I'm going to meet someone. After Duan Yuan Shan finished speaking, he cast his gaze to the ship not far away, and with a sway of his figure, arrived directly in front of the ship, cupped his fists, and said, Brother Yang, can you show yourself? City Lord Duan, please come in and have a chat, Yang Kai's voice came from the ship. Hearing this, Duan Yuan Shan smiled slightly and stepped onto the ship. After entering the cabin, Duan Yuan Shan saw Yang Kai with an indifferent expression. Brother Yang. Duan Yuan Shan cupped his fists again and said with a cold expression, This Duan came uninvited this time because I wanted to inquire about the ancient demonic chi from Brother Yang. I know. Yang Kai nodded and had no intention of hiding anything, so he briefly recounted everything that happened in the mine. After listening, Duan Yuan Shan's brows furrowed and he said in a deep voice, According to Brother Yang, this incident was actually caused by the Jiang family. Yes. Yang Kai nodded. No wonder I didn't see that old man Jiang Tai Sheng. Duan Yuan Shan looked angry and immediately asked, Since Brother Yang has come into contact with the ancient demonic chi, do you know how to resist it? Yang Kai shook his head, I'm not too sure about this. I only know that after the ancient demonic chi erodes a person's body, it will cause a great change in their temperament. Moreover, the person who has just died will come back to life after being eroded. How can this be? Duan Yuan Shan's face changed. I don't know about this. Perhaps there is something magical about the ancient demonic chi. While the two were talking, Mo Xiao Qi suddenly interrupted. In fact, there is no special way to deal with the ancient demonic chi. You can only use a powerful force to defeat it. If it was an ordinary demonic chi, there would be something to restrain it, but it is too difficult to restrain the pure demonic chi from the ancient great demon. But what? Duan Yuan Shan immediately turned his head to look at Mo Xiao Qi with an inquiring look on his face. But since the pure heart jade was used as a seal in the mine, the pure heart jade should be able to resist the invasion of the demonic chi. If we can let the cultivator in the city wear some pure heart jade, it might have some miraculous effects. Pure heart jade. Duan Yuan Shan raised his brows and said with a headache, This thing is rare. There are some in the city lord's mansion's warehouse, but they are very few. Mo Xiao Qi smiled and took out a few rings, handing them to Duan Yuan Shan. City lord, master, take a look at these. Duan Yuan Shan took them suspiciously and scanned them with his divine sense. Immediately, his face lit up with joy, so many pure heart jade. Chapter 2078. The rings that Mo Xiao Qi gave to Duan Yuan Shan were filled with countless pure heart jade. This made Duan Yuan Shan overjoyed. Young lady, did you take all these from the mine? Duan Yuan Shan asked thoughtfully. Mo Xiao Qi nodded. I knocked out a few Jiang family cultivator in the mine and snatched their space rings. They are all here. Young lady, please accept this Duan's respect. Duan Yuan Shan said as he immediately stood up and bowed deeply to Mo Xiao Qi. Mo Xiao Qi quickly waved her hand and said with some embarrassment, City Lord Duan is too serious. These are actually nothing. Duan Yuan Shan shook his head slowly and said in a deep voice, In any case, my Maplewood City will remember young lady's kindness. If we can safely survive this calamity, Young lady will be my Maplewood City's honored guest. Pure heart jade was more or less useful to any cultivator, so its value wasn't small. With so many pure heart jade, it was a shocking amount of wealth. If it was an ordinary cultivator, even if they knew that Maplewood City was in danger, they wouldn't offer these pure heart jade. However, Mo Xiaoqi took them out without a frown. This made Duan Yuanshan very grateful. These pure heart jade were purchased by my Maplewood City's City Lord's mansion. In the future, my City Lord's mansion will convert them into source crystals and repay young lady. Duan Yuanshan said. It's really no problem. Mo Xiaoqi really didn't know what to say. Yang Kai's expression flickered as he said, City Lord Duan, I also have some pure heart jade here. If it's not enough, just let me know. Duan Yuanshan heard this. His eyes lit up. He laughed heartily. With the help of Brother Yang and young lady, why should I worry about my Maplewood City? Since Brother Yang is so generous, this Duan will thank you in advance. If it's really not enough, I will look for Brother Yang. Yen, this Duan now needs to distribute these pure heart jade. I wonder if Brother Yang is willing to follow this Duan to the city walls, to defend against the enemies. Yang Kai didn't answer immediately. Instead, he swept his gaze towards the others and said, I can go, but I have to settle them down first. Of course. I'll take my leave first. Duan Yuanshan was overjoyed when he heard this. Obtaining the assistance of a Dao Source Realm Master at this time would be of great benefit to the entire Maplewood City. Naturally, he was grateful to Yang Kai for being able to see the big picture and understand righteousness. After he finished speaking, his figure flashed and he immediately boarded the ship. It flew straight towards the city wall. After Duan Yuanshan left, Yang Kai looked at Mo Xiaoqi and said, Xiaoqi, my cave mansion has been taken back by the City Lord's mansion. Let's settle them in your cave mansion. No problem, Mo Xiaoqi readily agreed. Yang Kai nodded and followed Mo Xiaoqi's instructions, controlling the ship to fly towards her secluded home. A short while later, the group arrived at Mo Xiaoqi's secluded home. Under the arrangement of Yang Kai, a group of people from the Zhong family, some shop assistants from Spirit Pill Plaza, and 2 alchemists all entered the secluded home. Old madam, you rest here. If there are any changes in Maplewood City, I will come to you in advance and take you away from here. After Yang Kai finished speaking, he looked at Zhong Ruoshi and said, Ruoshi, take care of your Zhong family. Yes. Sir, you must be careful. Zhong Ruoshi looked at Yang Kai with a worried face. Xiaoqi, do you have a secret room here? Yang Kai asked again. Yes. Come with me. Although Mo Xiaoqi didn't know what Yang Kai wanted to do, she still hurriedly led the way. Brother Kang, come with me. Yang Kai called out to Kang Sairan. Although Kang Sairan was puzzled, he didn't ask and followed closely. The secluded home rented by Mo Xiaoqi in Maplewood City was of the highest grade. Whether it was the density of the world energy or the size of the secluded home, it couldn't be compared to Yang Kai's secluded home. There were 5 or 6 secret rooms in the secluded home that could be used for secluded cultivation. After arriving at one of the secret rooms, Yang Kai signaled to Mo Xiaoqi with his eyes. Mo Xiaoqi understood and retreated. Brother Yang, why did you bring me here? Kang Sairan was confused. He didn't know why Yang Kai brought him to this secret room in this time of crisis. Shouldn't they be working together with the cultivator outside to resist the demonic qi? Brother Kang, take a look at this, Yang Kai said as he threw a jade bottle to Kang Sairan. Kang Sairan caught it suspiciously, opened the bottle cap, and poured out a spirit pill from the jade bottle. In the next moment, Kang Sairan's body shook violently as he stared at the spirit pill in his hand with a look of disbelief on his face. His eyes widened as he stared at it carefully. After a while, he exclaimed as if he had just confirmed something, Dao Source Pill? As the shopkeeper of Spirit Pill Plaza, countless pills had passed through his hands, so Kang Sairan was quite knowledgeable about them. Although he had never seen a Dao Source Pill before, with his experience and knowledge, how could he not know what a Dao Source Pill looked like and what kind of fragrance it gave off? The spirit pill in his hand was exactly the same as the rumored Dao Source Pill. The only difference was that this Dao Source Pill had veins that resembled the meridians of a human body, as if they were exquisite patterns drawn by the hands of heaven and earth, adorning the surface of this spirit pill. A Tao source pill with pill veins. Kang Sai Rant's voice became sharp, and his hands trembled uncontrollably. I got this from the Yuan Furnace Mountain. As Brother Kang expected, it was indeed Gong Sun Mu's cave mansion, and the Tao source pill he refined was also left there. Unfortunately, the flowing time Great Emperor has been here for too long. Only this one has been preserved. The others have all become waste. Yang Kai explained with some regret. Of course, this was nonsense. This Tao source pill with pill veins was personally refined by Yang Kai before he broke through to the Tao source realm. At that time, after he successfully refined it, he didn't have time to check his results at all as he immediately immersed himself in breaking through. After he succeeded in his breakthrough, he had the time to check it while waiting for Liu Yang near the Yuan Furnace Mountain. At that time, he refined 6 pills at once, 5 of which were ordinary Tao source pills, and only this one had pill veins. Fortunately, this was the case, otherwise, he wouldn't be able to explain the origin of this Tao source pill in his hand. After all, only a spirit pill with pill veins could last for a long time without losing its medicinal properties. Now, he told Kang Sai Ran that this Tao source pill came from the Yuan Furnace Mountain and was refined by Gong Sun Mu himself, so it was reasonable. Brother Yang, this. Although Kang Sai Ran was extremely excited, he didn't have the slightest greed. Instead, he looked up at Yang Kai, gritted his teeth, and said, "This thing is too precious. This foolish brother can't accept it." Yang Kai chuckled and said, "Brother Kang, you are treating me like an outsider. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have gone to the Yuan Furnace Mountain. What's more, didn't you and I agree before that if there was a Tao source pill inside, it would belong to you, and everything else related to alchemy would belong to me? Let's put it this way, I got more than one Tao source pill in the Yuan Furnace Mountain. I also got some things that were useful to me. Even I was able to break through to the Tao source realm thanks to the opportunities inside." Yang Kai wasn't speaking nonsense. If he hadn't taken the 10,000 medicinal treasures soup under the Yuan Furnace Mountain, the source qi in his body wouldn't have been transformed so quickly. If his source qi hadn't been completely transformed, he naturally wouldn't have been able to break through to the Tao source realm. That may be the case, but I didn't help at all. If this Tao source pill were to be auctioned, it would be worth at least tens of millions of source crystals, or even more. This Kang is ashamed to accept such a precious item. Kang Sai Ran kept shaking his head, and even flipped his hand, putting the Tao source pill back into the jade bottle and stuffing it to Yang Kai. Even though his eyes were full of reluctance, his actions weren't sloppy at all, and his voice was sonorous and forceful. Obviously, he wasn't putting on an act, and he really meant it. At the last auction, the finale Tao source fruit was sold for 10 million source crystals. Although a Tao source fruit could be used to refine a furnace of Tao source pills, and if one was lucky, several pills could be refined. Correspondingly, there was also a huge risk. If one failed, they would lose everything. But what Yang Kai took out was a finished Tao source pill. Moreover, it was a Tao source pill with pill veins, which had extraordinary effect. In terms of value, it was definitely several times more valuable than the Tao source fruit. In other words, any cultivator at the peak of the Third Order Origin King realm who could obtain this Tao source pill would have at least a 70% chance of breaking through to the Tao source realm. Brother Kang, are you sure you don't want it? Yang Kai looked at Kang Sai Ran with a smile. Kang Sai Ran shook his head firmly, but his eyes kept glancing towards Yang Kai's hand. In the end, he steeled his heart and simply turned his head away. What the eye doesn't see, the heart doesn't grieve over. In that case, Yang Kai said slowly, then opened the jade bottle and tossed the Tao source pill in his hand. What are you going to do? Kang Sai Ran immediately looked at Yang Kai vigilantly. I'll just eat it like fried beans. This spirit pill is quite fragrant, so it should taste good. Yang Kai said as he really threw the Tao source pill in his hand. The Tao source pill immediately flew out and flew towards his open mouth in a parabola. Stop! Kang Sai Ran was shocked. He stretched out his hand and pulled the Tao source pill back before it entered Yang Kai's bloody mouth. He said angrily, damn it, Brother Yang, you are wasting heaven's treasures recklessly. Heaven and earth cannot tolerate this. You don't want it anyway. Yang Kai shrugged his shoulders with an indifferent look on his face. Then you can't. Kang Sai Ran said before sighing, fine, Brother Yang has treated me so well, so if this Kang still hesitates, it would appear too petty. This Kang will accept this Dao Source pill. Brother Yang's kindness will be engraved in this Kang's heart and will definitely repay it in the future. Brother Yang, please accept this Kang's bow. Saying so, he straightened his robe and bowed deeply to Yang Kai with a solemn expression. Yang Kai grinned meaningfully and nodded, that's right. He suddenly put on a serious look and said, Brother Kang, you should enter retreat here and refine the spirit pill's efficacies. If I'm not wrong, there shouldn't be any major problems in Maplewood City for at least 7 or 8 days. These days should be enough for you to break through. I will wait for Brother Kang's good news outside. If I don't succeed, I will die trying. This Kang will live up to Brother Yang's expectations. Kang Sai Ran quickly said, You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.